Welcome back to part 2 of the best and worst thing.
Which for us is still an extension of part 1, which means some people, I'm not going to name names, but some people are getting drunk.
I have to sober up because I have to drive.
I would be much more loaded if I didn't have to drive.
Yeah, but if you're coming in, if you're coming without having listened to the first 2 hours, check out the part 1 of this. But I understand you might be watching, listening at this point because you just want to like our 5 worst and our 3 best. Like fuck the other 7. So this is City of Geek. Just to note who everyone is again. If you're just listening to this for the first time and don't really care about the first half of the podcast, I am Bob.
Cody's looking at his phone, but that's Cody.
That's Cody, yeah. I'm just here for the fucking bad movies.
And the chocolate chip cookies.
And Bob is just like fucking padding this shit out.
No.
And Kim's delicious chocolate cookies.
I do make good chocolate chip cookies. I'm Kim. Hi, last time I was Tony, now I'm back to being Kim.
And I am Tony by default.
I do highly suggest
enjoying the wonderful scratch-made cookies and the equally wonderful red wine that is being provided by our very capable host.
First bottle was you. That was good.
Yeah, what?
I was actually we drank a bottle of the between the two of us. Tony and I drank a bottle of the Walking Dead
red blend.
Yes, red blend, and it was surprisingly good.
Yes, well, I did actually bring a bottle to Bob. Christmas, I think it was.
I think it was my birthday this year.
Or your birthday.
But this is a part 2 of the podcast, but if you're coming to us just because you care about this end of things, we are City Geek. Go to our website, citygeek.com, and our Facebook to find everything we're writing about and talking about. As I noted at the end of the last podcast, if you share us from iTunes or wherever and give us a good positive review while you're at it and give me a title, I will watch that movie, including the Grinch porno, apparently, because Cody wants me to do that.
Kim will send you cookies.
That's the idea we
Kim won't send you cookies. That's
over at Strange Eons.
Kim will send Cody cookies.
Radio, run by Eric Morgan, Kelly Young, and Vanessa Williams. Not that Vanessa Williams.
And Bob will try really hard to keep us on topic.
So check them out because they're awesome people, and they've had Tony on at least once. But also, while we're talking about other podcast friends, let's not forget, Don't Read the Latin. With Jennifer Rice and whoever else they have gathered for this particular episode. They did their best of the night before we were recording ours, so theirs will come out probably the same night, ours will January 1st. This part is going to come out a couple days afterwards.
Let's go ours first.
And if we're plugging shit, Ghoulish Tendencies.
Yes, that was my next thing I was going to say. Yes. Which Kim is on.
I am.
Kim
I'm
and
sorry.
Gabby. For some reason, if you want to hear her talk more,
that would even possibly. That is true. They do hear me talk an obscene amount.
Hey, I have a subscription to Ghoulish Tendencies and Previously It Goes.
It is our more. We talk about the supernatural. We talk about true crime. We talk about lore and legends. So it's both in the vein of some of what we do here, and also not at all.
You know. We could also talk about the lore of delaying this.
Yes.
Get to the bad movies.
Now we are getting into our bottom 5 movies. This is going to move around here. So Cody is chomping at the bit. So we're going to... Tony! No, I was kidding. Cody, what is your 5th worst movie of
It is Halloween at Aunt Ethel's. Piece of fucking shit I found on Amazon
I'm sorry,
Prime.
I thought you were talking about your Halloween at your Aunt Ethel's. This is what
I don't have no Aunt Ethel.
You know, I have the same thing.
Halloween at Aunt Ethel.
She gave me
Aunt Ethel. Jesus.
Bitch didn't give no big size candy bars.
Fuck Aunt Ethel.
Fuck Aunt
Ethel. She is
Ethel.
a bitch anyway.
Yeah, she is.
Please fill us in. Details.
Okay, the worst fucking movie I'd seen. Honestly, one of the worst, like, from an actual filmmaking quality I've seen this year.
Well, now I have to see this.
Nothing works. Everything falls flat. The acting is like a porno. The old lady they keep doing these stupid fucking jokes. Their jokes never fucking land.
He's so bad right now.
So basically, the entire plot is there's this old lady who goes around, she kills a bunch of people on Halloween. Everybody fucking knows it's her. She makes shit out of their bodies. Oh, it's so cool. It's so edgy. All they get is a bunch of porno actors and sets. And this fucking lady, there's a rap song at the end of this fucking movie.
Had me at Skin Cookies.
And it makes me want to blow my goddamn brains out. Fuck this movie. I hate this movie. May anyone who worked on this movie burn in the entire fucking pits of hell.
This is my favorite moment of all time. I'm so happy right now.
I hated it. I never hate shit like this. Never, never, never. And I want to talk about it first. It's not my worst. There are 4 I hated more than this. I watched this for 100 nights because I thought, okay, well, it looks kind of shitty, but it can't be that bad. It was that fucking bad. There's an Aunt Ethel rap song. And
God.
honestly, I would rather listen to an hour of Hitler speeches than listen to that song again.
That's a provocative thing.
Fuck that movie. Fuck everyone who made it. Fuck everyone who financed it. And fuck their entire fucking families. On to Kim.
I know desperately want to watch this movie.
You need to. In fact, all of you need to watch it.
I will watch this now, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be bored, and you're going to be like, what the fuck? It sucks. And fuck.
Cody, for those of you at home who can't see what just happened, Cody just threw his
Threw a
napkin
napkin.
down in disgust.
Absolute. Just
Okay, well,
fucking gross.
my number 5, I don't necessarily feel quite as passionately about as Cody. But it is a movie that I took my friend to, because I had passes to see it. And when the credits started rolling, she turned to me and she said, "Man, I wish I was high." And that movie is The Dead Don't Die.
I heard nothing but bad things about this one.
Some people loved it. I wasn't one of them.
I know, well, and this is what I find kind of fascinating is that there were people who this might be on their top list, and I don't. Again, I don't passionately hate it the way that Cody hated the thing, but I just watched it being like, this thinks it's really funny, and it thinks it's really clever, and I just think it's dumb, and I don't smoke pot, but I also wish I was high, or drunk and high, or just not here. I was glad that I didn't pay anything to see it. I had passes to see it. It's hard, too, because, like, the cast is fantastic.
Well, and
Yeah,
Jesus
Adam
Christ,
Driver,
it's Jim Jarmusch.
yeah.
I can't think of a bad movie that Jim Jarmusch has
Well,
made.
here you go,
up
this
until
one.
this one.
Because this is awful. This is my 16th work movie of last year. It's fucking awful.
Well, and I think that was part of why I ended up putting it on my list, is I was so disappointed in it, because it could have been something, but it took meta past the point of being interesting.
Yeah, it's like a really shallow satire that I think in some ways is supposed to be a satire of satires, but it doesn't land in either.
But it doesn't
of those.
land. And again, when you have Bill Murray,
And Tilda,
Tilda?
and
Adam Driver.
Adam
Driver.
fucking Driver, who again,
Chloe Sevigny.
I love. Yeah, it was so utterly disappointing for me. The one gag that I did kind of enjoy, I will say, this is a spoiler.
Yeah,
I don't really care about spoiling this movie, because also it's so absurd.
we can spoil the bad shit.
Yeah. But I will say the one gag
Sometimes it gets people to watch
that
things.
kind of tickled me, and I almost wish there was more of that kind of gag, was there was a running gag that Adam Driver had read the script.
It's the theme song, I guess, here.
Yeah, well, it was in the script, or I read the script, or this happened in the script. And I will say, I wish they'd leaned further into that. I thought that was really funny, this idea that you have one character who knew he was in a movie and constantly referenced reading the script. I feel like it didn't really know what kind of absurd movie it wanted to be. And that was why it didn't work. It was trying to be way too many things and way
There's
too...
so many characters and subplots that don't
That don't
amount
mean
to
anything. And there was so many things that could have made it interesting, and then it didn't go anywhere. And that was part of why the movie was over, and I don't fully understand what I just sat through, or why I just sat through it, and why I wasn't high, even though I don't smoke pot.
On the positive, I'll say the one joke that really worked for me besides that particular one was that Steve Buscemi's character was such an asshole that they decided to let the zombies come in. It's like, should we warn him?
No. And you have
And I thought it would be great if, like, somehow, like, he's like the one survivor because they didn't tell him about the zombie, but he gets killed with everyone else, remember, right? But
Carol Kane is
oh yeah, she's in one scene
because she's a zombie, and then she's a zombie, and I will say her zombie is funny, but like they have all these actors that I feel like they also kind of underutilize. I'm like, you fucking have this stellar cast of people, and you're not really making use of how good they are. And
No, I have
Sometimes
not
they came
seen
into
this
Tom
movie.
Waits in the woods and just filmed him.
But I think I think one of the keys to why Jarmusch's movies usually really work is because they are very open-ended in structure, and they are very much exercises in mood and also like contemplation. In a lot of Jarmusch's movies, the characters are in a state of contemplation, and I think hemming that kind of approach into a formula genre movie, if you don't really have your ducks in a row, is not going to work.
No.
And that's kind of the impression I get. Because, I mean, he made one of the best vampire movies ever.
Oh,
He
yeah.
directed
That's my
Only Lovers
second
Left
favorite
Alive.
vampire movie.
Brilliant. Because it leans into one of his strengths, which is exploring the contemplation of characters as they are navigating their way through life. And it just seems to me like... And the other thing is also his sense of humor is normally very kind of left of center, very oddball, very not,
Which I
set
like.
up joke punchline. That's not the way he normally works, and it sounds like this is kind of what he was attempting.
Because it's less the
maybe.
punchlines, more just continual.
A continual, like the continual reference to the, the dead don't die, the song, the theme song that they have is like, oh, I like that
With
song.
Sturgill Simpson. Yeah.
That's it was a lot of repetitive stuff, and I think a lot of the things on my list are things that I saved for my number one, which fuck that movie. We haven't gotten there yet. But a lot of things on my list, they're not even things that I would say are necessarily bad films for the most part. They're things that I was really annoyed walking out of, partially because I think they could have been better.
Yeah,
and this
my
is
number one
Yes.
something that just failed because of
There are a couple on the list that
that
was
maybe
for me.
is technically a better movie than I'm giving it credit for, but
I wanted this to be better, and it annoyed me that it wasn't, and so that is part of why it made my list. And again, my top couple three on my worst five are ones that annoyed me because I really wanted them to be better than they were, and they weren't. And it's so and for the most case too, had good talented actors and waste them. So, Dead Don't Die. It bothered me. It annoyed me. It should have been better. I wanted Adam Driver to take his shirt off. Anyway, Tony.
Now, I only have 4 movies that I thought were bad enough to merit putting on a list of some sort. So I don't know if I should abstain and
should
let you
we
guys
should we
keep
come back
going.
to you next round?
We will
Yeah.
abstain
We'll
from
come
Alright.
back to you next round. So Tony has a nil. All right. So my number 5 is actually I'm changing places between what was previous number 5 and
Oh.
sorry, my letterbox which will go public in a couple days. It's going to be Hellboy for Neil Marshall,
Which I've not seen.
and you shouldn't see it's on Prime if you want to sit your ass through it. Don't.
I don't. I really don't.
It's one of those movies where there's been just like a whole button of producers and everyone instead is arguing, and sometimes that works, sometimes it comes through. In this case, it's just a failure. It's just a mishmash and failure of tones, of styles, of people who should be better who aren't. When Ian McShane doesn't give a shit, you know you're in trouble. Because he usually commits to everything that he's doing. Even when he's in Pirates of the Caribbean 15, The Haunted Crow's Nest, whatever, who cares? It's still a joke from The Good Place. But here's well, I will say on the positive before I rant a little bit. David Harbour does everything he can for Hellboy. He's actually a good choice for the role. He's not Ron Perlman, but who is? And I'm not
Ron
wanting,
Perlman.
I want to automatically compare. I don't want to make automatic comparing this to Guillermo del Toro's, which are wonderful, but they're not. They're a little step out from the comics. This is more meant to be in tone of the comics, and I can see why they're going for this. But you also have plots that plotline that cut to shreds, really weird edits, really weird cut shots where you can tell things have been changed over time. That things have changed in a reshoot. Things have changed here. A really bad ADR where you can see that things have moved.
Ooh, that's
through.
never good.
When really a lot of off camera for behind somebody lines that don't match. To get a good feeling of where this movie doesn't work, just watch the opening scene on Amazon. When you hear Ian McShane just blast through Mila Jovovich's backstory, just like a one take, reading the thing for the first time. He's like, "You want to go for it again? No, we got it." It's like it's worse.
This is what we call a paycheck movie.
It's worse than Harrison Ford's Blade Runner readings.
Ooh, burn!
Yes, it feels like he's just reading it out loud because he just wants to get the feel of it, and they record
Oh, so
it
Harrison
in a way
Ford in the Rise of Skywalker then.
Shut up.
Oh, burn!
But yeah, Hellboy. I saw on my birthday, and it was the worst birthday present I've ever received.
Happy fucking
Aw.
birthday.
We should have saw
Motherfucker.
this. We actually joked about seeing Missing Link as soon as I got it. Like that was so awful. We need something good, and we decided to go home.
Palate
instead.
cleanser.
Yeah. Which actually probably made my leg Missing Link a lot. Probably would have made it better watching Hellboy.
Well, it's heartbreaking, especially to hear that, because the movie was directed by Neil Marshall,
Yeah,
who is one of the
fantastic.
great white
Just sit.
hopes of genre filmmaking at this point. Now, he has gone on the record as being very disappointed with the end result because he says it was taken out of his hands. But I'm very
That
sad.
so rarely
Is it
ends
time
well.
for my
Yeah.
4?
Oh my god, you're just like chomping at the bit. I love it.
Cats.
Can we do an episode at some point that's just like things that Cody wants to rant about?
Yeah.
Dude, you know what? Fuck.
You can have a whole podcast doing this. Record it and put it up.
I'll fucking do that. It'll be 10 minutes on Ghostbusters. We'll start there. I'm gonna go in.
Cody's
on
hot
that.
takes. Even though some of these are
I
actually
do
really
love me
awful.
some
Speak
goth.
for the YouTube channel. Cody's hot takes.
Cats.
Which I
This
so much I want to
movie
see. I want to see it
was
so bad.
So fucking horny. What?
I will say, part of me wants to see it because apparently
And
Idris
Idris
Elba's
Elba,
like,
so that's one
Yeah.
right there.
It was like
I'm
basically
straight. He's my
naked.
boyfriend.
Idris Elba is a fucking naked, smooth cat.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna go see if there's a screening right now. Is there a screening?
This movie, everybody's gyrating and they're acting like they're on drugs, and nobody has any visible genitalia. You
want to see Rebel Wilson?
You walk
shoot him in
into
the
this,
head?
and Rebel Wilson is spread eagle, like she's about to get just fucking railed. And you see no genitalia. By the end of the song, she rips off her skin to reveal
What?
she's got a costume on underneath. That's also her skin. She eats cockroaches, then she's gone.
That's
then
so
James
much in
Corden,
it.
who I fucking hate.
As everyone
James
should. He's a dick.
Corden is a
Massive dick.
James Corden, I hope you fucking die. Fuck you. Fuck your stupid show.
is amazing.
Fuck your singing with your bullshit in the car. I hope one day you're in a car and somebody just runs a fucking 18-wheeler over it, you piece of shit. Fuck this movie.
How do you feel, Cody?
Fuck this movie. Judi Dench is in it, and she lifts her leg up like she wants to just get railed by Ian McKellen, who does the horniest cat yell ever. What the fuck? Idris Elba is weirdly horny throughout it. And
I mean,
that's
that I'm okay with. That I'm okay with.
to fire his fucking agent. Anybody who's in this, fire your fucking agent. Taylor Swift, she's in it to sing a shit song. Nobody's gonna
That's
remember.
no.
I mean, to be fair, is the shit song one of the original songs? 'Cause-
They added
Yes.
one.
Oh.
The
What
hit song is co-written by
the
Taylor
fuck
Swift.
Is
And that's the
Angelical.
longest Oscar bait.
Nobody can explain what the fuck a Jellicle is. Why they
I
make
never
this
whole
choice.
song about Jellicle Cats, but I
I
can
don't
sing it to
care,
you
Bob.
right now. if you
Shut your
Read-
fucking
read-
mouth,
read
Bob.
the
I am
poem.
not done with this shit.
Trust me, I know this show.
I know the show. Oh, this is so funny.
I went and saw this with my friend Lauren. We dressed like cats. And we had a
review's
great
online.
time. Great fucking time. Review is online. It actually has more views than most of our regular stuff. So I think people saw the cats and were like, okay, fuck it. Let's watch this fat guy talk about cats in the car for 20 minutes.
This is this year's everyone rail on movie. Like last year was Life Itself and other
Which one was that?
Collateral Beauty.
Oh, I
How
just
does this
remember
movie
that
get made?
movie.
Is my question. $250 million. And you know,
And the
budget,
director-
actually, the budget was just shy of $100 million.
Yeah,
Which
but
is
with
still
marketing
that's true.
and everything. They're
Well,
gonna
and
reshoots
the
and,
I'm gonna,
corrected.
this is yeah.
'Cause they had to
spoiler
say
alert. This is
corrected.
higher on my list. So
Oh, okay.
Well, but they had to. The fact that they had to send out, like, the director is still fucking with shit,
Yeah.
and they sent things.
They
they're
have.
re-releasing it.
I'm
Yeah,
disappointed that I
they're
haven't seen it yet because I want to see the worst version of
Well,
Possible.
I
That's
saw
why I'm
some
not
of
going to
the-
see it in theaters because so I'm not going to see it at home because I want to see it as bad as it can
I saw
possibly
some of
be.
the
I don't-
screenshots of, like, Judi Dench's human hand with her
Yeah.
wedding ring on, and I was
And
like,
the-
oh.
The person that I think in maybe Jezebel who saw it twice, she talked about how like there's one point where someone's grayed out but not catted, and then point where you
Yes.
can see people's like feet because they just like edited the feet out but forgot to put the cat feet on.
Oh, no.
Or there's one point where someone's just standing there in a knit cap in the front of the screen or something. Like that.
One note I have is we should probably edit the part out where I want James Corden to die, because if he hears that, I could probably get charges pressed against me.
He's a prick.
Fuck James Corden.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if I saw this, it would be on my list because I
Yeah,
want
me
to see
too.
it so fucking bad.
Mr.
But
Mistopheles.
we guys get ourselves right
By
in
the
the right
way,
mood to see it.
Mr. Mistopheles is a fucking creep and should have been killed. This movie.
Oh no, there was
is-
never a cat so clever as magical Mr. Mistopheles.
This movie should have ended with them all at a PETA kill shelter.
Well, if part of the plot is that they're all introducing themselves and asking to die and get chosen to die, which none of us get that option.
First of all, yeah,
maybe
this should have
Deuteronomy
ended with
saying
them.
everybody dies. Everyone.
This should have just ended with them all at a kill shelter and them all just getting gassed. Fuck this movie.
But
anyway,
it's
Cam,
legendarily
number 4.
awful.
See, it's funny because I was really reluctant to go see it in theaters before, and now I kind of want
And
to.
we'll probably see it tomorrow. Is my wife and I probably see it.
Yeah, I gotta know your thoughts. And
Maybe I'll
Tony,
do that.
when I drive you home, I want to know your thoughts because you saw
Oh,
it.
you're going to get them now.
Oh.
Like, on this, because
It's on
it is on my list.
Thanks fucking
See,
God.
literally, my thing has
You can
been
spoil the fuck
I
out
have
of
not wanted
cats.
to spend
No one
money
cares.
on this. But now I kind of do. Well, no, I have certificates to Regal.
Well, before we move on, I'm gonna say cats. Like, I have a weird relationship with cats.
Tell me more, Bob. Tell me more.
Well, I was like, because it's
And it's good that you're never here alone with Scully. I think.
I just checked you off my list of people that cat sit. Baby,
that's not what I meant.
run, baby, run.
When you run, the bad man's not
was
going
about
for
to
you.
say
I tell you, I'm the bad man.
I both simultaneously love and
Yeah,
hate
man, with the
cats.
computer and
This
the
cat's like,
microphone.
I like the T.S. Eliot poems, and the show itself is incredibly silly, incredibly weird.
Seeing it live though
It's
is
easy to hate it, but
entertaining.
it's fun to hate it in
Yeah.
that same way. But it's also fun to just enjoy how
I enjoy watching it
cocaine
live.
fueled
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
This is a movie. This is a show built on cocaine and cats, and it works in that way. But it's not. I don't understand people take it really seriously. Mandy, if you're listening, I'm sorry. But still, that's all I want to say is like I do kind of like cats in a really weird way. I know it's
No,
like
so okay, here's my thing. The very first CD I got when I was 8 years old was a Best of Andrew Lloyd Webber kind
I
of
hate
thing.
you both now.
I know. It was a Best of Andrew Lloyd Webber thing. It
There's
had
the best of Andrew Lloyd Webber.
listen.
As long as not Love Never Dies, we're alright.
I was fucking 8
The
years
best
old.
of Andrew Lloyd Webber is Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yes, and Evita.
I haven't
And
seen
Parts
it,
of
so I
Family.
can't.
And part. Well, and so here's the thing. Again,
Not
I
that
was.
I
I would, well.
Andrew
I'll
Lloyd Webber is the
respectfully
reason
disagree.
I got into theater because I was a kid. I was 8, and then I heard some of Phantom on the CD. I got the Phantom of the Opera CD. I was obsessed with it. I read the novel when I was a kid because I was obsessed with his musical. I got Cats, Evita, Jesus Christ Superstar, Starlight Express, Aspects of Love, all this shit, and not Starlight Express, Sunset Boulevard. And
I'm afraid of that. Yeah.
yeah, I was a oh my god. I was, listen, we're on bottle of wine number 3. So anyway, I was a Andrew Lloyd Webber super fan until I was about 12 when I discovered
At 12, I realized the wisdom had been acquired sufficient that Andrew Lloyd Webber is a hack. Thank you.
I moved on to Les Mis and Miss Saigon and discovered there was other musical theater out there other than Andrew Lloyd Webber. But I'm a theater kid. I am a hardcore theater kid. I am still a theater kid and I'm still a performer. Andrew Lloyd Webber is why I got into musical theater, and I will always love him for that. I will always love Phantom of the Opera because I love the story, and Evita, and Jesus Christ Superstar. And man, I loved Cats when I was a child, an actual child. And because of that, the musical theater version has a space in my heart.
Kim is furry confirmed.
Oh, bitch, please. It's a whole other podcast.
Can't wait for Sonic.
God. But that is also part of my reluctance to see the musical, is that in terms of live action musicals, very few are done in a manner of which I find to really capture what it is they are on stage. The on-stage experience is its own thing, and it's a rare musical that has made its way to film that has been successful, in my opinion. Anyway, I feel like I had another point, but I lost it.
4.
You know what?
Yeah, let's get there.
You talked about cats for like 20 minutes. I can talk about it for...
Hey, I can put my bullshit into about 5 minutes.
Brightburn!
Ooh.
Okay.
Which is a
Right, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I'm like punching for a fight here, and here's why. This was a movie that thoroughly disappointed me.
Yeah.
And I am actively angry at it because it could have been something really great, and instead it wasted it. That being said, the little like cutscene during the credits, yeah, that looked interesting. Let's talk more about that. That's a sequel I would watch. But you took a really interesting premise, you had a good cast, and you kind of squandered it.
The entire movie felt like it never got out of the first act.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so, and this kind of comes back to a lot of my worst stuffs are not ones that are necessarily
The worst.
bad.
Basically,
They're
yeah.
they did. You know what? I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in these movies, and this was a movie that I was really disappointed in because I felt like the concept was really interesting, and that it squandered what was a really promising concept.
Yeah, I think a lot of people loved it simply because of the concept rather
Yep.
than the...
Yeah, no, I'm
The execution, to me, it just missed it.
I'm in complete agreement with you. I mean, it didn't make my top 10 worse, but I did not like
Yeah,
it.
it ended in my 2 era because I thought the kills were pretty good, and that sequence in the diner with the blood and the
The diner was
cool.
very cool.
And that's enough to get it out of like the doldrums of the bottom.
But this is where I say, too, not being an A-list subscriber
Yeah.
like you two are.
We watch more shit.
Well, you voluntarily watch more shit. Like, if I have
I
to...
seek out the bad.
Yeah, I'm waiting for things to come out on video that are bad that I'll watch, and even then, at that point, am I gonna... If I know something's bad, am I like, yay, I want to watch this? Unless I'm live tweeting it, and it's for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
No. I only have so much time, so... There's a lot of stuff that I know would have made my worst stuff list if I'd watched
Yeah,
it.
fair enough.
But I didn't. Quentin Tarantino, what? Anyway, Tony?
But I was just saying one
yes.
final note on Brightburn is like of stuff that it could have done, but didn't. Like we're talking about nature versus nurture, both for or loving someone who you know is objectively evil.
Yes.
And wrestling with that, and either the kid or the mom are doing it for both. But it's just like, look, evil Superman, yay! James Gunn, you're famous. Can you get your brother to you can use your brother's crap script? You know.
Oh.
All right.
Tony,
Well,
what's
my
your
number 4?
Tony.
Kind of on the general tack of movies that are a severe disappointment. My number 4 was Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. I was really sorely disappointed with it. I feel like it was one of those films where the first quarter of it, I was okay with it. I was kind of riding with it. There are some rough spots, okay. And then as it kept going, it just for me, it just became more absurd. It became more, it became so fan service pandery at the end that I just felt like I was being clubbed over the head with all of these moments that J.J. Abrams had crafted specifically as an apology for Rian Johnson's blasphemous sin of trying to do something fucking different with the last movie. Yep. It was one of those movies that as I was watching it, it was one thing, but when I walked out of it and was chewing over it after I had seen it, I was just like, God damn it. What the...
I really thought that the strongest part was, honestly, Ian McDermott as Palpatine. I thought that
I loved the beginning. I thought that was one of the reasons why I was in. The beginning is expressionist horror movie imagery, and I thought,
exactly,
okay, they're going to go dark. And then it goes
off the rails, but I thought everything with Palpatine I thought the visuals of Palpatine work. And the visuals of the Sith homeworld work. Spoiler, I don't give a shit. Fuck spoilers. So was Lando going to just fuck that woman at the end? Let's find out where you're from. No, he's going to fuck his daughter then, because that's what the vibe I got.
There's apparently in the books about where his daughter got stolen.
I know, I'm like, what did I miss?
Where he's like, well, let's find out where you're from with a nice bottle of Colt 45.
Well, I mean, I will say that one of the things I did like was Lando's return.
But everything feels like this was. Why did they need this trilogy at the end?
Well,
because
money.
Because you know what pisses me off? is because the Abrams movies are so fucking toothless. And they're so fucking rehashes of the last one.
Yeah.
And the one movie that had the balls to do anything different, everybody shits on. You know why?
Rian
You know why
We're all
people fucking hate Star Wars fans? It's because Star Wars fans are some of the worst.
Yep.
Gatekeeper shits.
Gatekeeper shit.
Yes.
You hated the prequels because of this, and now you hate this because of that.
Well, the prequels do suck.
Okay, first of all, Episode 3, masterpiece.
I still haven't seen that. That's the actually never seen that.
Sith, Revenge of the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith.
I've never seen it.
Show me a lightsaber fight that's better than Anakin and Obi-Wan on Mustafar.
Show me an Anakin Skywalker is worse than fucking Hayden Christensen.
He was great.
Sans.
He's fucking
No, he's
ghastly in that.
In
But
the
we're not talking
second
about
one,
prequels.
he's
He's
not
a
good.
pouty shit in the third one. He's just a slightly
He's worse in the
more
second.
groomed.
He's worse in the
pouty
second.
shit.
He likes to smoke.
I figured that. That
He's not a very nice guy.
But anyway, like Episode 9 is so fucking toothless, and it's just Abrams just jerking off these fanboys.
Yes. One, and I will say the
No,
thing
it's
that
him. It's him. You would need a crowbar to disconnect his lips from the fanboys' asses.
Yes.
I was
That
gonna
is
say
how
dicks, but there you go.
hard.
Well, what bothered me was mostly that, I feel like you, as an audience member, what I don't want to see playing out in front of me is the politics of movie making, and as soon as you have Kylo Ren saying, "You know how I said your parents were nobody? What I meant was your parents were somebody, and
My grandfather
actually
used to
your
work for our
grandfather
grandfather."
is this person." As soon as that happens, you're like, this is one director literally shitting on a previous director's decisions.
And another thing that just really gets me is this movie, this trilogy, invalidates the entire arc of Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm.
What was the point of him being born? What was the point of him destroying the Jedi and bringing balance to the Force in the end by killing Palpatine? Fucking nothing.
Yeah, I've seen people post about like a better way of doing that for Palpatine, like that if he created if Sheev, who apparently does fuck now,
He spilled his nut butter. That's canon.
If he somehow created Anakin and maybe even created the whole Skywalker line, they keep turning on him. That'd been an interesting take, but they don't get into that. See, I did like I did like Rise of Skywalker mostly. I think I gave it like a B or B plus. It's got all
Go
sorts
fuck
of
yourself,
issues.
bro.
I did enjoy it. I just think it was shitting on The Last Jedi, which fucking pissed me off because I love The Last Jedi. And then it felt like two
Gross.
movies shoved into
Also,
one.
gross.
Vader is the most iconic character from the entire Star Wars canon.
But
He's the most recognizable, and to take that arc of his redemption and basically be like, oh, well, his son turned into a huge coward, now he's dead. Okay. I could see that arc working if they stuck the landing in the ninth. If they actually had a good reason for Luke to go in that route. And then Kylo Ren's dead, so all the fucking Skywalkers are dead. Rey's not a Skywalker. I'm not counting that. In my opinion, you're at a point with her where everything that they said about her being a Mary Sue came true in this movie.
Well, I will also say that I think the unfortunate death of Carrie Fisher
That fucked him.
fucked them over. And what I almost, even though seeing Carrie Fisher on screen was,
Those scenes were pointless.
they were weird.
they were weird, and I
Which apparently is where all the Roses.
Yes.
Was like they apparently
That was the
filmed scene with
excuse.
Rose with her, and then they ended up cutting
because they couldn't make him work. I don't know if this is even an unpopular opinion or not. As much as getting those glimpses of Carrie Fisher initially gave me this emotional reaction, in retrospect, I wish they'd done the movie either
Right after her death.
having her die before, like, not on screen, just being like, now that General Organa has died, this is what we have to do. I wish they hadn't tried to so obviously write scenes
To shoehorn her in.
to shoehorn her in, because it at the end of the day, it crippled them, it crippled their plotting, and also it just looked weird. It looked so weird.
My idea always was they knew Carrie Fisher was dead for a full fucking year.
Yeah.
They should have rewritten it where she dies in Last Jedi when she goes out the airlock. And you could have written that in, and you could have had Luke survive, and you could have had their roles kind of swapped to where you actually have, because Lando doesn't do shit in this fucking movie.
Well, and I will say he's my God. The swagger, even...
Oh, he's still got it.
He's still got it. I was like, I am invested. I am on board. Show me more of Lando.
But, it kind of reduced Luke and Han and Leia to cameos in the end.
Well, it wasn't their trilogy, which is... I'm really glad that they did focus more on the new characters.
They
should try and...
I feel like Luke really never got, an actual, arc to a point. I feel like...
He had a great arc in the first three. I mean, I think his character does the most development in the first three originals.
But I think
I liked cranky old man Luke.
Oh, me too. I thought that worked.
I liked that as an aspect.
I just think they could have swapped this out and had him still be alive in Part 9, and it would have been a lot easier for them.
Well, and I do. We've kind of said fuck you spoilers at this point with this movie.
For the bad, we're doing spoiler. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, again, I feel like.
Even though
for the people listening to this, well,
I think everyone who's listening has probably seen Star Wars.
That's what I kind of mean. There is a cameo in this by Han, by Harrison Ford.
We can tell he doesn't want to fucking be there too.
But I also think
more than he did for the
I
liked him in this movie.
I think I did too, and I think the reason why is because I think there is this enormous sense of relief from him that this is it. I'm not going to have to do any of this Star Wars shit anymore.
Anakin would have been much more thematically fitting, but we're not picking him.
Anakin,
it's okay.
Okay, you do you, and I've said what I can say about Anakin without just fucking having a stroke.
I think it is obvious that part of why he came back is that Carrie Fisher died. He did not intend to come back. He agreed to do Star Wars to be written off in the first one.
And this was supposed to be Leia's movie anyway.
And this was supposed to be Leia's movie, but Carrie Fisher died. But I feel like they were still trying to be respectful to her, and in trying to make her a character in a movie where the actress is dead, you ended up kind of fucking the whole film.
It definitely feels patchwork as shit.
Yeah, and J.J. Abrams, I felt like the whole time was giving the middle finger to Rian Johnson, and
I know
that was also just, again, I don't want to see the politics behind the screens, behind the scenes playing out in front of me.
I knew we were fucked when they're like J.J. Abrams was going to do it, because I thought Force Awakens was okay, but it was the first one again.
But it's like, dude, J.J. Abrams, if you felt so strongly about your fucking vision, then you should stay on to do all three of them. Otherwise, again, this is the first rule in theater. You say yes and. You needed to say yes and to what was done in part 2, even if you didn't like it, and make it work. Because in trying to retcon it felt disrespectful and pieced together, and like you were cramming
petty.
too many.
It felt like petty as
shit. It felt
shit.
so petty.
Yeah.
And like you're cramming 2 movies into one, and it was really, really disheartening to watch.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's
And
why it's number 4 on the
On
list.
that note, let's move on.
I will say one last thing.
Yeah.
One last thing on
25
Star
minutes.
Wars.
What I like too
One
is
last
that
thing.
Cody has not been drinking for a while, so I just appreciate that.
One last fucking thing on this movie and the Star Wars, this sequel trilogy. There is no reason whatsoever, and they cannot explain this, as to why Anakin Skywalker never appeared to Kylo Ren.
Well, I think
He's a fucking Force ghost. He could appear to him at literally any point.
Can I tell you why I think he didn't appear to him?
Because they wanted to sanitize the prequels completely fucking out of
No,
everything.
that's not why.
Sanitize.
Well, no, because, okay, I'm sorry.
I swear to God, Bob, way too busy smoking a bowl.
Well, yes, you could have done that.
You can smack me for that one.
I think if you wanted to do later Vader, you do have the problem of having the voice of Darth Vader and Anakin in the later movies not match your physical actor.
They should have just had Anakin appear as Hayden Christensen. And
I
just
don't believe
fucking
Hayden
roll with it.
Christensen would have wanted to do it.
Well, he has one of the voices at the end.
Yeah, he does the voice.
Well, he's one of the voices at the
And
that Ray talks to.
fuck Star Wars. Anyway, are we on Bob?
I don't even
4
know
or something?
anymore. Where are
My
we?
number 4
Go ahead, Bob.
is Fred Durst's The Fanatic.
I've not seen that.
Oh!
It's fucking weird.
Lenny was talking about that the
I
other
was
day.
watching that on Amazon.
I was gonna say I almost started watching it just because of how much Lenny was like, "Fuck this movie."
This is an awfully written, awfully performed movie. But it's kind of weird to really rail on it because of the performance that John Travolta gives as Moose. Because to use the terms from Tropic Thunder, he goes full retard. Where do you live?
Ooh.
Are you taking a photo of me?
No.
But he's given like every sort of issue that someone can have and does the most basic version of it, but change from scene to scene and this and that. So it makes it really awkward and uncomfortable to watch him. So it's really hard to make fun of the performance in this case, besides of just how awkward and weird it is. With the way everything else goes, it's one of those things where like, is he the hero? Because he's not presented in a good light either, but Devon Sawa was also a dick as the person to be fantasized against. A lot of like random voiceover from a character doesn't matter. Lots of weird shit coming in that doesn't make any real sense. There's someone who dies that everyone should have seen within the course of a couple of days and no one notices. It's one of those like weird things. Like it's don't know who's it for, who are rooting for, why it even exists. There's not a lot to say too much more about it because there's better people have written more and talked more about it that you can go find. And since I've been one year seen it, I'll leave it at that. Except what I do want to say, this doesn't have to do with Fanatic, but also musicians making a movie. Is apparently Glenn Danzig's Veronica is god awful. But it's not released yet. It comes out in February, apparently. For
I'm
us.
looking
Originally it was
forward
going
to
to be
it.
October 31st, and they pushed it back.
See, on the
Aww.
great
I wanted to
sliding
watch
scale, on the great sliding scale of rock musicians making movies, I'm much more interested in a Glenn Danzig directed movie than a movie directed by the fucking lead singer and mastermind of Limp fucking Bizkit.
And Limp Bizkit, their music is in the movie. There's a really awkward sequence where Dennis
Which
Devon
is the
Sawa
only way he's
says
going to
to
fucking
his
get
son,
any sort of
"Did you
Limp
ever listen
Bizkit
to
material
this?"
out to humanity in this fucking millennium.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I almost feel like, is this
I'm not
purposely
a fan.
made to be this awful because he knows no one's going to talk about it otherwise? But yeah, I just wanted. What I answer is I want to know if Moose's the way Moose acts is Travolta or Durst making that decision. Because Travolta should know better, but also I saw Gotti.
Yeah, I don't think Travolta knows better.
Sometimes he does. Sometimes I think he's one of those actors who depends on his director. His director's good and gets him in the right
Because
right
he
place
can be
away.
so good, or he can be
Yeah,
what?
Yeah.
and not even
Ah.
entertaining in like a Nick Cage way. With Nick Cage,
Oh, Nick
that's all
Cage!
I'm
I don't even care. Nick Cage is always fun, no matter what. Even when he's
Yes.
not, he's fun.
saying. Yeah. Cody, what's your number 3?
Now, in theory, my number 3 would have been Star Wars, but I've already talked about that now. So that frees up another spot
Is
on
that
this list.
actually? Was that actually your number 3?
That was going to be number 3.
That's hysterical.
That should be number 3. Kev.
Oh, are we?
No,
Are,
I
am I at my number 3?
I
Oh,
think it was-
I'll make up one for Tony when he had before.
Yeah. I am just going to say real quick about how much I hated Dark Phoenix. And how fucking lame it was. The X-Men movies have been up and down all kinds of ways. What a fucking lame, limp dick movie. Fuck that movie. Kim, you're next.
I like that you ended on Limp Dick. I just,
Biscuit.
I will say, I just watched that on my way to New York. I watched that when I was on the plane, and I was like, huh, okay.
Good thing Marvel got the X-Men back.
My number 3. My number 3 is another movie I watched on a plane. And it comes back to, again, movies that I'm really mad at because you had a really good cast. You had Bruce Willis. You had fucking Samuel L. Jackson. You had James McAvoy. You had What's-Her-Butt from American Horror Story.
Sarah Paulson.
Thank you, Sarah Paulson. Not just from American Horror Story, but listen,
million amazing.
we're like on our 3rd bottle of wine. I'm starting to forget things. And yet, and like, I'm sorry, M. Night Shyamalan might not be everyone's cup of tea, and there's a lot of times he's not mine, but I do think he creates really interesting stories.
Last Airbender was a masterpiece.
That's a controversial opinion. I'm not going to pick up that bait right now, but Glass.
I'm sad.
I'm sad
because I liked
Split. And
Split.
But no, partially because James McAvoy
is amazing.
is an amazing actor, and oh god, what's her name? The teenage
Anna
girl.
Taylor-Joy.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Anna
she's always
Taylor-Joy.
great.
She is one to watch too. She's going to do things. She is
Absolutely.
going to do some things, but like.
Tony did things with the goat and
Well, yes, that too. But anytime you have a cast of that caliber of actor and you fuck up a film, how does that happen? Who hurt you? Why did this happen?
A puddle.
I know! Oh my god! A fucking puddle!
We were watching the theater like, oh no!
It's
what?
It's again. This is a movie I got really mad at because you have all of the tools to make it a success, and yet somehow you still have made a failure, and it makes me mad.
Well,
Potential that is unrealized
not
makes
just
me
that.
mad.
Not just that, but Jesus, it riffs on mythology that's been begun with Unbreakable,
Yes.
which is a terrific movie.
Yes.
And is continued with Split, which I
Yes.
think is also a really good movie.
Yeah.
So, and I was, for one reason or another, was not able to see it when it first came out. And then I started to hear the poisonous word of mouth immediately, and it's like, God damn it.
You know, it's
Was
kind of
it
like
Cody? Was the poison
What does
Cody?
it mean, Cody?
it's like somebody's like jerking you off, and it's going really well for the first 2 acts, and in the end, somebody breaks a glass and throws it right into your fucking urethra. That is Glass.
I hate it when that
Yeah,
happens.
like one of the major
a
issues
hand
with
job
this movie-
that culminates in broken glass is not a good thing.
In your urethra.
That would be a
Urethra.
death in a giallo film that Tony and I are going to make.
Yeah.
I would pay to watch that.
So, like, the thing with Glass and myself, besides being Urethra, was that like
Two podcasts.
Glass
in a
in
row,
your urethra.
I have talked about it.
Hey, that is a good giallo
Yeah.
title.
That would be a great title. Oh, I
Glass
never
in your
seen that
Glass
movie.
and the whitest Urethra. Now, the color with the glass there. But it's Shyamalan's writing about superheroes and superhero mythology, but a very basic version of, like, I read a couple comics back in the 1950s.
Yes.
Unaware, like,
I don't
the
think he's that
entirety... I'm just saying just a general... The
70s.
entirety of the
It's supposed to
world
be the 70s.
has seen every Marvel movie.
Yes.
People know superheroes inside
Yeah.
and out now.
We understand them.
But he's writing a movie as if people don't.
Yeah.
He's writing a very...
He's not giving his audience enough credit.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, there's always the good and evil. And the scene that happens, like, yeah. And
No shit, dude.
From the ones from the early 70s. You
Yeah.
know? It's deeper and wider.
We're in a
thinking.
comic book movie renaissance.
But no one told M. Night Shyamalan that.
It's because this man needs somebody. He has really great ideas. He doesn't actually write good scripts. His ideas are spectacular, but he needs somebody to help him write dialogue. First of all,
laughs in the village.
yeah, but I mean, like dialogue. He is a shit dialogue writer.
Lady in Water.
Signs.
I kind of like Signs.
I
The writing's
no.
awful,
I
but
don't
the actual
dislike
movie-
Signs, but his dialogue is god awful.
Yeah.
His ideas are really interesting.
It's the signs. I wonder that you can like beat the aliens with like pissing on them or something.
But it's with water because it's
With
holy
water.
water because they're demons. But
But no. Like he does not naturally write dialogue. His ideas are really interesting. He needs to collaborate with somebody. I also think as a director, he's interesting. But he needs to let somebody else in on his creative process to help him write his
He
scripts.
can't go unfiltered.
No, and
it fucks him.
And it's why he started so strong and then just has gone downhill.
Move down.
And
Now,
then
let's
there's
go
a
down to
bump
number
up,
3.
and now he's back
with Tony.
downhill again.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Number
just going to
3.
move on because there's already 50
Yes,
minutes.
my number 3 is...
You knew that was going to happen.
My number 3 is another case of very much thwarted expectations. I really was not a fan of Joker.
Joker.
I just did not like the movie at all. I thought Joker, in its little, shallow, superficial heart, wants desperately to be it wants to be...
Bring it, bitches!
It desperately wants to be King of Comedy meets Taxi Driver.
Yes.
It really wants to be that, but it does not have the clarity of vision. It does not have the sense of originality. It just, for me, it just did not work. I saw a lot of raw talent on display. I mean, the movie looks great. I think on an academic level, you could step back and appreciate Joaquin Phoenix's performance, which is a very impressive bit of physicality. But it just felt so misbegotten to me. It felt like it felt like it was an attempt. It felt like it was an attempt to subvert the DC Comics formula, but like written out in red magic marker on a big white wall. With no subtlety, no nuance, no sense of clarity.
I read what happened, and honestly, I think this movie fucking didn't need to exist. I've always thought,
I agree.
If you're going to do a Joker movie, something that would be very interesting is to actually do a Joker movie where he is almost an actual hero. And Batman is pretty hateable when you think about it like this.
I'm Batman.
Bruce Wayne has enough money to pretty much solve poverty.
Yeah. Well, and this is one of the things that really the fucking movie totally drops the ball on. Is it just the whole... I mean, I appreciate the class warfare aspect of it, but it is delivered with a fucking sledgehammer.
Yeah.
It is delivered with the least subtlety and the most... I mean, it was Martin Scorsese for dummies.
Yeah.
That's what the whole movie felt like.
Basically, like, Batman in general is just a dude who has so much money and so much privilege and so much power, and he chooses, rather than to use that money to actually help his community, he builds himself a giant bat suit with some fucking weird batarangs, wastes all his fucking money, and goes and beats up criminals.
Which is something that is ripe for depiction.
Yes.
But the guy who fucking directed Old School is not the guy to do that.
Yep. And there is a communist Joker movie out there that needs to happen, and this was not it.
Yeah, I agree. I just was sorely disappointed.
I didn't hate it as much as you did, but obviously I didn't like if you have these conversations before. I don't have much to say about it that you haven't already said, and if I start talking, it'll be a mishmash of stuff. So check read my review and leave it at that.
Your excellent review, by the way.
Hey, well, you helped write it.
No.
You polished it.
I was the Thelma Schoonmaker to your Scorsese on that, my friend.
All right, Bob, I want to know.
So my number 3 is The Haunting of Sharon Tate.
It's a mine, but it's been more up.
So I can table
or down,
my
as the
thoughts on
case
that
may
for now.
be.
So I'm going to table my thoughts on that for Kim's speech.
Okay.
The Kim's speech.
Kim, is it number? Can I just ask? Is it number 1 or number 2?
No, it's number 2.
Well, guess what my number 2 is?
Haunting of Sharon Tate.
Woo! Booyah!
Going to talk about it now then.
Okay, there is doing a movie that is in bad taste. And then there's doing this.
Okay, so there's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah, there's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and then there's The Haunting of Sharon Tate.
Yeah, I can't even think of the Hollywood as distasteful after watching this.
This
is like a mockbuster of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
but only those parts.
It's so bad.
I don't know
how the movie that blames Sharon Tate for her own murder.
It's so bad. How did this get made? That I want to see.
They might have done it. I don't think.
The
director of Halloween 6.
This was a good idea. Also, Hilary Duff.
That motherfucker from Cake Wars is the gay best friend, and that just angers me. I hate that guy. Fuck him.
I think Cody should have a heart attack.
No.
But you mentioned something, San Diego.
Hilary Duff.
Yes.
Girl, call me. What's going on?
Why would you even take that role?
Why? Because it's so I mean, so in general, I think anytime you are making a movie that is talking about an actual tragedy, you need to be treading with care. But this...
I mean, if they can make this, my Albert Fish musical can finally happen.
No, but I mean, so at least At least
no
with
one
the Albert... Well, that's just it. Albert Fish musical, there's enough time between...
Needles in the penis.
But he put needles in his own penis.
That is the next memory from Cats.
He put needles in his own penis. Like, these are people who were brutally murdered, and she was pregnant.
Yep.
And it's icky. It's icky.
It is honestly one of the most disgusting films I've ever seen.
It's such poor taste.
I'm so disgusted. I'm not even gonna fucking yell at this movie. It's just,
no, it is.
Shame on you.
So again, the first 3 movies were ones I was like, again, I'm not angry, I'm disappointed. Now I'm angry.
Yeah.
I am angry at this movie.
Absolutely.
It is in such poor taste. It is poorly done too. Like, if you're gonna be in poor taste, at least be good. No, you couldn't even do that.
It looks cheap as fuck.
It looks cheap as fuck.
Yeah.
It looks low budget.
Even their Manson sucks.
No,
Yeah,
it's
god-awful.
it's just it's an unnecessary movie. You want to tell a story like this, you could have fictionalized it so easily. But by putting Sharon Tate's name on it, fuck you.
Yep.
Fuck you. You deserve for this movie to be ridiculed, and you deserve for this movie. And in general, I don't like being that person. I think if you're trying to make art good for you, no.
This is no
fuck
art,
you.
though.
This is not art.
This is a cheap.
Fuck
But
you.
so like I said, the guy who directed this, of course, directed Halloween 6, which but he does have some good stuff on his. Before I mentioned a bunch of shit that he made. He did direct Crystal Lake Memories. His name is Jason, and Never Sleep Again. So he's pretty good at documentaries of horror
So
films.
if you'd made a documentary about Sharon Tate, cool, bro. But you didn't.
But he also made the Medieval Murders came out this year, which I didn't see.
I didn't see that.
And his next movie, Nicole Brown Simpson.
Fuck
No
you.
way.
Fuck you.
I'm absolutely serious.
Fuck you.
Yeah, so like,
And
no.
for
I
one
mean,
more time,
It would
everyone.
not surprise me
Fuck
with
you.
how this movie went if he actually didn't try to get O.J. Simpson to be in that movie. Because the juice is loose. And he's on Twitter.
I'm gonna
Juice is
go.
Loose,
I'm gonna
directed by
pet
George
my
Romero.
cat. Excuse me,
An antidote. We
Tony,
need an
what's your
antidote
cue?
to the.
Matilda. You're so
So
pretty.
we'll move on from
I
to Tony's.
had the distinctive fortune of not seeing The Haunting of Sharon Tate.
Don't see it.
Although I will say, in one interesting streak, as someone who's seen a lot of exploitation movies, especially ones from the 70s, this is not a precedent.
No.
This
But
is
it's not Helter Skelter.
This is
It's
not something
done
that needs to
decent.
be done.
exactly.
Even then, I thought even like the shit movies from the 70s were at least a little better taste.
Well, and also it was the Wild West back then.
Yeah.
And so, when people made movies like this, it was like there was some sort of warped attempt to garner an audience, whereas you don't need. I mean that form of exploitation is not something that in this current film climate is really something that you can do without a purpose.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is it sounds like just a meaningless.
And this is kind of tossed together because of the 50th anniversary. Try and beat Once Upon a Time.
well, I'm sure writing on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
to beat there's Mary Herron's not Charlie Says, which is a much better movie than this. Not perfect, but it's a much better movie than this.
Mm-hmm.
A couple other Manson stuff coming out recently, but Tony, what's your number 2?
My number 2, and I'm sure this is going to be near and dear to Cody's heart, is The Reliant. Okay, this was a transcendentally lousy film for me. I've always had a fondness, I think, as Cody has alluded to, of like Christian propaganda movies. And this is definitely a Christian propaganda movie in its purest sense.
Kim loved it.
And top to bottom, it's amateurishly made. Its message is wonderfully like smeared and warped and ambiguous and ill thought out, as befits most Christian propaganda films. And it has one of the most gloriously ridiculous montage scenes that I've ever seen in a motion picture, where Brian Bosworth is being baptized by 2 very muscular twins, and it is shot in slow motion with so much homoerotic subtext that it's not even subtext. It is text writ large. I just it was one of those movies that I was just staggered at its pure patent absurdity from beginning
With
to
how
end.
loud Tony was laughing in the theater, I thought we were going to watch six.
I know there was somebody in the front row or in front of us. There were a couple of like older people, and I thought they're going to just like haul off and snap me, but I couldn't stop. I could not stop laughing. It's just, and I mean, you can look deeper, and if you are inclined, as I think most of us are at this table, you can be completely and utterly horrified at the fact that there are people that believe this, and that there are people who will watch this movie and swallow the horse shit that's being coughed up therein. But it was just a grandly absurd experience for me. It was one of those things that I think in 10 years, God willing, will be past having that hideous orange stain on the White House carpet around. We'll be able to like look at and laugh as just like the height, depth, width, and breadth of complete and total propagandist absurdity. I was heartily entertained.
Oh, yeah.
It's absolutely ghastly, and I was heartily entertained. I laughed harder at that than probably most of the comedies that I saw this year. So yes, it's my number 2 favorite awful movie of the year.
Yeah, that's a movie that's just a mess from beginning to end, with awful scripting of the world they build is so hypocritical, and it makes a better argument for gun regulations and no God than it does for what they're trying to say.
Which is remarkable.
I wanted my Antifa Red Dawn, and I did not get that.
No, you got Jesus Red Dawn.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you want more Jesus in your Red Dawn?
No.
It's already conservative.
No one ever
Red
said
Dawn's
that.
already conservative, but it's a good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked Red Dawn. I mean, to be fair, I started watching it and I was like 10. But when I was
This
10,
is so
I enjoyed
enjoyable,
this.
even if it's a very right-wing
It's one of the
message.
few movies that my brother used to
Milius
make me
is
watch that I
right-wing
really
crazy.
liked.
Yes, he is right-wing nuts, but he knows how to make a fucking movie.
The movie is good.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so that's my number 2. The Reliant.
My number 2 is also a movie that should have been better with everyone involved, even someone who I really hate, who can put out a good performances. This is the remake of, actually second remake in this case, of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, The Hustle, starring Anne Hathaway, who normally is fucking good. And based on her performances in this and Serenity, had a year where she wasn't giving a shit. And I think was actively trying to sink the movie she was in. And then and Rebel Wilson, who is god awful. I hate Rebel Wilson so much. Who produced this? So you think that she would maybe have a better cut of this? It's Dirty Rotten Scoundrels is essentially the same script, but gender flopped, which I don't have an issue with as on the whole. In this case, it brings nothing to it and actually kind of undermines its own message because they keep everything. Fucking spoilers. Where in the first movie around, they're being since that's a remake of a 1964 movie, but just mainly
Which is a fun movie.
Which is- yeah.
I'm a big fan of the original.
Oh, God, yes.
Dirty Rotten Scoundrels or Bedtime Stories.
Dirty
They're
Rotten
both
Scoundrels,
entertaining,
yeah.
but yeah, Dirty
Marlon
Rotten
Brando
Scoundrels
playing
is a lot of fun.
playing the Steve Martin role is weird. It's weird to see him play direct comedy that way. But yeah, Rebel Wilson's playing the Steve Martin character but they're all doing essentially the same script with no humor. Where there's
so
kind of like
disappointing.
they're playing it to the walls with no real energy to it, which is weird. Kind of like playing it out there, but also not giving out anything. Anne Hathaway's accent is so fucking awful. I expected that to be a release at some point of this is yet another twist on it, but it's not. It's just that's apparently what she chose to do for the movie. But yeah, as I was going, it does turn out that they're being conned by the dude they're trying to con. So they're a bunch of these women are being conned by a dude ultimately in the end. So it kind of undermines
unfortunate.
everything there. A lot of jokes have setups and no payoffs. A lot of things just fall flat with Rebel Wilson working away through the line of not knowing. Oh, I'm gonna fall down and go boom. Yeah.
It's funny because I was really excited about this movie when I first saw the trailer, and then I think it was after you saw it, I got less excited, and then I didn't end up seeing it. I enjoy the Dirty Rotten Scoundrels that this was based on.
Oh, that movie. There
well-
are scenes in that movie that are hysterical.
I got
Even
to
outside
see the musical version with John Lithgow and with Norbert Leo Butz, and it's delightful. It's so much fun. So it was so disappointing to hear you say that this was not good. Again, I didn't go see it as a result. I still haven't seen it.
There's nothing worse seeing this. It's like not even seeing it's like I see how bad this can be. Because it's
No,
like
it's
a bad
like it's
comedy
not-
is just an awful experience.
It's
Oh, that's
sludge.
really true.
like
it's
a
a
bad
sludge.
drama, it becomes a comedy. A bad comedy is just
Yeah, you don't want to be here. You want to be at home, and
Yep.
you can't do anything about it.
All right, I've saved my rage for my absolute worst movie of 2019.
Bring it.
Detective Pikachu.
I don't know if you saw a different movie than I did. but
Fuck that
apparently you
movie
did.
and go fuck yourself off. That movie is the biggest piece of fucking
It's on my DVR.
waste of
Watch. I haven't
time
watched it yet.
shit. Bullshit. Fuck Pokemon.
But Cody, how do you feel?
Fuck you, Kim. That's how I feel. I fucking hated this movie. Nothing in this movie works. The lead actor, he sucks. The lead love interest, she sucks.
She is
None of the Pokemon are at all funny. Ryan Reynolds makes me just want to fucking strangle him in this movie. And I typically like Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds.
I don't like Deadpool, but I think his portrayal works. I think it's pretty accurate. I just don't like Deadpool. That's what he's playing Deadpool as a fucking little lame ass Pokemon shit. The villain sucks. The entire villain plan sucks. Fuck this movie. I've never hated sitting through something so fucking much in my fucking life. I hated everything about this movie. There's no redeeming qualities whatsoever. You think, okay, well maybe there's a funny
Mr. Mime scene, dude.
Mr. Mime can go fuck himself, and I hope he goes to a fucking work camp and dies. All Pokemon deserve to die for this movie. That franchise deserves to die for this movie. Nothing in this fucking movie works.
See-
You think, oh, it's a cool design. No. You think, oh, well, there's live action Pokemon. No. No, it's Ryan Reynolds and his weird fucking child. It was not even his real child. I don't fucking care. I hated this movie. I fucking hated this movie. I would rather watch Aunt Ethel 10 fucking times in a row than ever see this movie again. Fuck Ryan Reynolds.
That's
Fuck
amazing.
Detective Pikachu. Fuck everything about this Pokemon bullshit. And fuck Detective Pikachu one last time. Fuck 2019.
See, I actually don't even like Pokemon, and I actually really enjoyed this movie.
Go fuck yourself.
I think at some point you decided to hate this movie and just became the thing from there.
Just embrace it.
I mean, from deep down in my very pit of my soul, go fuck yourself, Bob. You've earned that.
I'm sorry. I do have to say right now, if you're hearing a noise in the background,
That's Carolyn snoring.
It's Carolyn snoring.
But Bob, it's okay. I still love you, even though you're very wrong.
So I have it on my DVR right now. I haven't watched it yet, and it's funny because initially when I saw the trailer, I was like, "Eh,
Do you know what would be a better use of your time?
what would
Kim?
be a better use of my time?"
Watching The Reliant. again.
No.
No, it's an enjoyable kids noir
No,
that has a
it's
lot of
not.
fun to it.
It's not.
It's funny.
It's just
There's
it's
a good
just
design
not.
of the
Anything
monsters.
Nothing is well designed. It's designed.
But does it
from
have
20
but
years
does it
ago.
have a soft focus, like homoerotic scene with an ex-jock getting
It has
dipped
Bill
into
Nye,
a river
and that's all you
by
need.
muscular?
Bill Nye.
I will say,
Twins.
Doing that.
the
Bill Nye's
Reliant and
doing that.
Serenity were two movies that I honestly could not put on this list because I loved them. They were shit, but I enjoyed them, and I would see
But
them.
we
again.
interrupted Kim.
I don't even know.
Well, I
Let's
don't
just
think
move
we
on.
even started. You go.
Am I saying my number one?
You're
go
doing
for
your
it.
number
Okay,
one.
so fun story. My number one has been said, but
Yeah.
it's a fun story because I keep calling this movie The Revenant, and so
There's no bear fucking.
like I've written this down in my notes as The Revenant, and then when I've gone to like make a note in the computer, I'm like, oh no, there's no Leo in this movie. It's not The Revenant, it's The Reliant, which
Yay.
oh my god. Here's the thing. I don't get the enjoyment out of these movies that Cody gets. And so this for me was absolute hell.
You're welcome.
Because, like, okay, here's the thing. I used to at least watch Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, and Xena Warrior Princess. God bless you, Lucy Lawless, you beautiful human.
She's amazing.
She's
Just wait for
amazing.
Lucy Lawless and God's Not Dead 4.
No, she knows better.
But Bray Wyatt's in part 2, so we're alright.
I have lost some respect for Kevin Sorbo, but the one thing that initially kept me going was that I thought, oh, maybe, Kevin Sorbo's in this movie. I at least enjoy Kevin Sorbo, even if it turns out he's kind of a shit.
He is a right-wing wingnut.
I didn't know this when I liked Hercules: The Legendary Journey. I was like
Maybe that was
10.
bit-
Well, I think the turn may have happened shortly after he.
Because I used to watch Andromeda too. I used to really enjoy Kevin Sorbo.
Me too.
And now apparently I shouldn't enjoy him. But I at least thought, okay, I in some level enjoy him. I'll at least enjoy watching him. No, you know why? I don't even care if I spoil this movie. Because fuck you, this movie. Kevin Sorbo dies in like the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
He's barely
He's
in this
the one. He's the
godforsaken
one. He's the closest
movie.
thing to a marquee name that is fucking misbegotten.
He's the only
part
thing.
of a religious propaganda movie.
But at least we don't need to
is-
see his mummified corpse for like half a second.
For like half a
Nice.
second. It's not even the. Oh my god. Snoring so loudly, I can't.
Alright, so yeah,
It's
Caleb's
not-
showing up on this.
Yep.
That's how thrilling our dialogue is.
It's not just that I hated this movie. It's that I resented that any of my money went to supporting this movie. And the day after seeing this movie, I had to donate money to charity because of how upset I was that any of my actual dollars.
And that is the best birthday present I could have asked for.
What? That I donated money to charity?
No, that you hated it so much.
I hated it so much, and I resented seeing it because I really resented that any of my money went to this movie's box office. Because I did not see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in theaters because I did not want any of my money going towards Quentin Tarantino, because fuck you, Quentin Tarantino. I realize people like him. He is abusive to women. He has a woman problem, and he won't talk about it. And so, fuck you, Quentin Tarantino. I did not see Joker in movie theaters for the same reason. I really have a problem with men who are not willing to answer difficult questions about your art that might be problematic. And I've had just enough wine that I'm really going to get going on this. I really dislike giving money to things that I have a moral problem with. And I have a moral problem with the things that this movie represented. And I gave money towards its overall box office. So I then had to give more of my money, which I do not have, because I work in the fucking arts, to a cause to counteract the money that this movie got on my behalf. So it is why this movie is my number one on the fuck you scale of movies. The first three on my list were movies that I was disappointed in. This movie can go suck Satan's cock.
Thank you so much for that.
That's the fucking pull quote right there for the movie. This movie can suck Satan's cock. City of Geek.
Appreciate you on a spiritual level. Thank you so fucking much for that. That's all I wanted from that. I just... Hearing Kim's rant on that, just...
Delphin out!
Game, set, and match.
Tony, what's your number one?
What's your
My number one... My number one is Cats.
Oh yeah, you mentioned earlier.
I was... there are certain movies that are not...
Oh my god.
That are almost... They almost defy... like rational categorization, where they are not good or bad, but they are forces of nature, strange, menacing forces of nature, and Cats is one of those films. Did you
see Cats sober, or did you?
I saw Cats half sober.
Half sober.
Half sober.
And the not sober part didn't help. This is one of those projects that I know producers saw dollar signs because they happened to have a property that made $3.5 billion over the decades. And so they saw that, and they saw that there are like 3 or 4 irritating as fuck, but admittedly memorable songs. And that's more than enough to create a $100 million musical, apparently. Now, the fact that $100 million musical has nothing as far as a script goes, and was misbegotten from the get-go is an entire... It's one of those movies that you literally watch as a car wreck.
Hey, cutie.
Oh, sorry. We're getting some snoring.
You're snoring a little bit loud, sweetheart.
Yeah,
that's okay. I'll try and time my rant and rhythm with. I was literally slack-jawed this entire movie. I literally did not know what to make of it.
From the second that the cats emerge from the bag. It's a fucking nightmare fuel trip.
Oh, totally. And the thing is, as you continue watching it, it's like every single serious moment, and we'll put air quotes around this, every single serious moment is completely and utterly undercut by the special effects and by the execution. Now, first of all, watching this movie, because I saw a stage version of it on video once eons ago. Watching it play out just completely amplified every single stupid and unsuccessful and misbegotten step that is inherent in the source material. It's just a bad musical, and watching it all play out with this horrible CGI, I think that conceivably somebody could have made an interesting, just pure animated version of this. I think that is probably the way they should have done it. But for some reason, Tom Hooper decided he was going to do this horrific CGI meld of humans and cats. Probably because it was like, okay, let's exploit the fact that we have these stars in this movie. Nothing works. And every moment that tries to strain for real serious, drama. I mean, Jennifer Hudson as Grisabella is...
She's Grisabella?
She is Grisabella.
She's 40 years too young to be Grisabella.
That's just the start of it. But she's doing...
I thought Judi Dench was Grisabella.
No,
she's Deuteronomy.
She's Deuteronomy.
Wait! I thought Ian McKellen was Deuteronomy.
No, he's Gus the theater cat.
By the way, Judi Dench just randomly announced that she thinks that her Deuteronomy is trans.
I'm so confused.
No evidence for that in the movie.
I'm so confused.
Yeah.
No, me too. But as I'm watching Jennifer Hudson sing Memory, which, Jesus fucking Christ almighty, I never ever want to hear one note of that motherfucking song ever. Stop!
I will throw this Tootsie Roll at
she's really, it's a strange exercise in discomfort because she's really giving it her all, and yet her face is pasted on this unsettling, mangy CGI version of a cat, and I lost it. I roared in laughter as I was watching it. And the most interesting thing was I was in the theater with about 6 other people, and there were very young kids in the back, and they were snickering like hell for the first 10 minutes, but then I think it's very significant after that first 10 minutes of snickering at it, there was silence. Absolute silence, like they were witnessing the most horrific car accident that could ever be seen, and there were no words or expressions that could summon up any of what they were experiencing. It's so, oh my god, it's so wrong-headed on so many levels.
Can I say 2 things?
Please.
1, if Tobe Hooper had directed this movie, I would have been first in line to see it.
Yes.
2, and this is only because I've had enough wine that I'm starting to not give any fucks. That the director's gonna be fine, is gonna be given more piles of money to do movies, but if it was a female director, she'd be fucked.
You know what? I think you're right.
And that pisses me off.
Can I sing something?
Touch me. It's so easy to leave me.
That's kind of a lovely falsetto. Fuck you, Cody.
But the thing with the CGI cats, there's as weird as they are, they have costumes already designed for the stage.
Well, that's because the musical's ridiculous.
You know what it looks like? This is the sorry to interrupt.
With these
this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck the name is for this shit that you use, the app that you use to paste a kitty nose and kitty ears on your ass when you're taking selfies.
It's called Halloween.
Thank you. This is barely above that in terms of amateurish cheesiness. It's a whole cast of A-list actors with a fucking Halloween app. It's literally that shoddy. But the thing is that the movie is so ill-conceived and so poorly executed that I can't comprehend any improvement in special effects helping. It's not going to help.
Well, the thing is that what, 10, 15 years ago, PBS did a, it wasn't a live recording of it, but they filmed it, the musical,
Yeah.
on stage.
Yeah.
Like Pirates of Penzance style.
Yeah.
Not like they actually had sets, but yeah.
It was filmed as a theatrical piece, but without an audience.
Yeah.
And it's...
Watch that in high school.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the one I saw.
It's
Yeah,
a kind of
that's
thing I
the one
watched
that's
in
out there
theater
in the-
class. And I've seen it live a handful of times now. Actually, the
Seen
youth
it
theater...
twice, yeah. I think.
Well, one of the youth theaters I work with, they did it a couple years ago as a kind of... like Harajuku style, because the director's Japanese, and so she did this like Japanese street fashion. It was actually probably the most I've ever liked the musical, partially because it was a lot of kids and they were cute. But it's a musical that's already within the theater community fairly divisive. You either generally like Cats or you don't. If they had just embraced human actors in costumes and not CGI'd it, I don't think it would be
I agree.
anywhere near as bad.
I think there is an element of we have these shiny new toys and we're
Ugh.
going to use them, and just because you have them doesn't mean that they're going to
Or
work.
Scientists.
Or if they Lady and the Tramped it,
Yeah.
I would have been more into it if they Lady and the Tramped it, because cats are cute. So if they used real fucking cats, yeah, I'd watch that shit.
I maintain that it would have been a much more tolerable experience if they'd have done it as a straight animation feature.
yeah, well, see,
If they would've done
animation would have been
I think
adorable.
I said that in my review. I'm like, if this had
Yeah.
been an animation, it probably could have worked.
It would have been very cute.
You see like a Dom Blue.
So I think we've officially eviscerated
killed
cats.
So I'm gonna. Mine has actually been said before by Cam earlier, but this one was quiet on it. Was actually Cody maybe actually said by Cody earlier. Sorry, Dark Phoenix X-Men was one of the most disappointing things of the year because it's his second attempt at telling the story.
And second
This one's
attempt at
even
failing.
worse than
Yeah.
the X-Men 3. X-Men look X-Men 3 look like X-Men 2 in result. Because it says even messier version of it with people who gave zero fucks.
You could tell like they just gave up because they realized
Like
they were
in their
getting bought.
recuts and this and that, and like I said earlier about Ian McShane not giving a shit during Hellboy. In this case, you have Michael Fassbender and Jennifer Lawrence, who checked out like 2 movies ago, and a whole bunch of people who don't give any fucks whatsoever.
I have to be honest. I checked out after the first 3 X-Men movies, and
It's
the
good
thing that
times.
made me check out was the third one,
yeah,
The
Well,
Last Stand, which was obviously not. The
They
Last
got
Stand,
better and then they
unfortunately.
got worse again. But they're all like, there's no internal continuity to the series. No real like look like in show like.
Well,
no
they
real
keep fucking
continuity.
up, and they keep like trying to redo it, trying to fix it,
and then maybe just let it go from here. But like in this place where there's literally like people grandstanding in the same speeches they've been given for 20 years before they try and cross a street in Manhattan to go fight the Jean Grey and the whatever the fuck bad guys that were originally supposed to be Skrulls, and not once they realized they didn't actually have the rights to Skrulls because Marvel's got those back. Apparently they did reshoot the entire last half of the movie because it was too much like Captain Marvel. And it shows
Oh, good
because the
God.
tone of the back half is different than the tone of the first half. Like it films like it's in the middle with somebody else, but no one gives any shits anymore, and it just forces its way through molasses with this mess of a movie. And they seem to have forgotten the fact that even as much as we want to forget X-Men Apocalypse because that was a piece of shit too, that Jean had those powers last time.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, I guess she did. And then the best part of that, of course, is Jean Grey yeeting what's her face Mystique into a fence. And with the worst death.
Just let Jennifer Lawrence go. Why
She
did
does
you
not
just?
want to be in these movies.
Why did you just let her not be in it? Because everyone, I feel like, would have been happier.
So those are our worst movies of the
I would
year.
just like to thank you all for letting me just get all my rage out.
Let's move back to the fun bits,
Woo!
the good bits, the parts that we love best.
And our
Even
last
though-
3, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
even though the bad movies are amazing because I love them too.
Hmm.
I appreciate you all.
But let's go back and talk about some fun stuff again. So, Cody, what's your number 3?
Oh, that would be Child's Play.
No, that's a
wow.
surprise, but a
Oh.
welcome surprise. It's a
I-
fantastic film.
Really liked it. I thought that it was honestly better than any of the other Child's Plays.
Wow.
I-
See, I haven't seen it, so
I thought it was.
I'm intrigued.
Oh, because you weren't with us.
Oh,
when we
yeah,
saw
I
it.
bet you
That's
weren't.
right.
Yeah, I
I
missed
forgot
out.
that.
It was one of those ones where it really did a good job of kind of resetting the story for a modern audience.
Mm-hmm. No, I
I
agree.
loved the performance by Aubrey Plaza. Mark
Yeah.
Hamill does a
Mark Hamill really
wonderful
Mark
job.
Hamill
He was
does
so
a-
sympathetic.
Yes.
You know, and that's something that's hard to do. Is like, you know, Chucky. They give him a different backstory this time.
A
Yeah.
very different backstory.
But he's actually very sympathetic, and you feel bad for this doll.
And
You really do.
And you really see why he does everything that he does. It matches up in movie.
Yeah.
It's not just, I'm an evil doll.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. No,
See, this
that's
this
the
switch
worst
is set to evil.
well, I think it was really
That's good.
smart too because if you're going to reimagine a classic film, you need to do something different with it.
And there's some bizarre comedy in there too.
There really is.
Like when
Yeah.
you know, there's the scene where the head's wrapped up, and then I love the scene towards the end. Spoilers, where the Chucky dolls just stab that guy in the mascot costume to death, and the blood just gets all over that little girl.
And
Fucking
it's
great.
going and going. But it's also like mean in many ways, which is wonderful as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I think anyone who there's so many people like just saying fuck Child's Play for existing without actually watching a movie. I think anyone actually watched it with open mind dug it.
In my opinion, goes in the pantheon of horror remakes with Dawn of the Dead, 2004, and Hills Have
Thing.
Eyes in The Thing.
And the and the Blobs, that's great too.
Blobs.
Yeah, they end up in my number 35 militia Belohan, and like on 5 out of 5s. You know, so it worked out.
But it
You
is
flexing on me, Bob?
No, I'm saying I agree. It
No,
ended
I just
up in
was
my
fucking with
my good.
Bob's
innocent-
system is
It's in his top 40.
intense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in my
I'm
patient
impressed.
case on the weekly top 40 of Child's Play. I lost the.
All right, Kim.
Go ahead. Kim.
Oh, my number 3 is Little Women.
Ah.
I saw it.
Wake me up when it is big women.
I just threw a Tootsie Roll at Cody.
But unfortunately, it was wrapped,
It's true.
which lacks the impact of an unwrapped Tootsie Roll being hurled at it.
I saw it yesterday, and I was a little. Did you throw that down my shirt?
It went up front.
No, it went down.
It went down.
I was going for your head, and I kind of missed.
Well, my boobs are bigger than my head. So. What they are?
Oh, I think that was the packing slip from your shirt. You didn't see that.
All right.
You.
Anyway,
Women.
we're talking about female shit. Okay, so I saw it yesterday in the theaters. I was a little skeptical because I was a big fan of the '94 version,
Which is terrific.
which is terrific. That being said, I think at least in terms of nailing some of the characters, this got it. It not only got it, but
Reddit updated them very well.
it updated them
without
really
feeling
well.
cloying.
And like I'll say like Florence Pugh as Amy is really remarkable because Amy is always kind of a problematic character. She's not super likable when she's a kid. This is not a spoiler because the novel is like 150 years old. So if you're like, why'd you spoil this for me? Fuck you. Go read a book.
Read a motherfucking book.
Read a motherfucking book.
Or at least see one of the 3 earlier adaptations.
Seriously, the marriage between Amy and Laurie, this made the most sense of any version I've ever seen. And Jo is she just makes sense. All of the girls are really fleshed out very nicely. The way the story is told, starting further into the story and going backwards is really nicely done. The actress that plays Beth, I actually thought too was really fantastic. It's just good. It is just a really well-directed, fantastically acted film. It's really nice to see. There's a whole conversation that Marmee, who's played by Laura Dern, who's fantastic, she has with Jo, where Joe is kind of complimenting her on her patience, and she basically says, "I'm always angry. I have to work on it. I've had longer to work on it, and I'm always angry," which I think is going to resonate with a lot of women. It's this thing. It's a woman thing, and where she is in life, her marriage, her husband, her children, and you see it later when the husband comes back. There's some comments she makes where you're like, "Oh shit, girl." You're pissed at your husband, but you're also, it's not like you're going to get divorced. You are in this, and there's things that you're upset about. And this is the only way you can show it. There's some speeches about the nature of marriage. Like, there's this great one Amy has that's all where Laurie's kind of berating her a little about, you'd marry this guy you don't love. And she's like, listen, dude, even if I had money when I got married, it would go to my husband. I don't have money. So my children would belong to my husband. So yeah, you're goddamn right. I'm going to marry for money because it's literally the only thing I would have going for me. And it was such a great way of just being very practical and also being like, yeah, this is what it meant to be a woman in this time. It's really good. Go see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna hope we see it Thursday. I think.
Yeah, and it's honestly, it's worth seeing in theaters. Like it's not a big action movie. You're not going to get great action sequences, but it's
Little Women.
It's
guns. Kevin Sorbo's happy.
They just line up like the Avengers at the end.
It's very pretty. It's pretty. The filmmaking is nice. The costume design, the art design is stunning.
See, I'm a sap for a good historic period drama.
Oh
so.
god, it's updated in all the right ways.
Yeah, when we had our fall preview and I shit on it, I feel bad for taking it. Because I watched the trailer and I'm like, yes, never mind. This movie looks great.
No.
What the fuck is it talking about?
I
was
was
see it this week.
I was a little skeptical. I think it is absolutely fantastic.
Oh,
All
my
right.
turn.
Yeah.
My number 3 has already been discussed extensively. It is Parasite.
Yay.
I think a lot has been said at this table already. The only thing I will add is I cannot think of a movie in recent memory that has so adroitly navigated a very serious tonal shift in its last third than this movie. And it works. And as you kind of addressed before, Bob, there is such a fluidity to how it reaches that point. There's like a real gift navigating that kind of tonal shift, and the movie does it. And the movie does it without you losing the emotional footing involved that the movie is built regarding the characters that are in it. It's just, I just think it's brilliant. I mean, it was one of those. It was one of those films that just literally. I'm so glad I went into it cold, because it broadsided me in the best possible way, and then afterwards, as I was analyzing how it broadsided me, I was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah, no, I'm good.
It did everything that it intended to do, and it did it brilliantly. I'm just absolutely one of the most transcendental movie experiences I had all year was watching Parasite in a theater.
And all right, so I'm gonna move on with my number 3, which is Jojo Rabbit.
I almost saw it today, and then I made cookies instead.
Fair enough.
I'm personally
Thank you for
glad of
taking
this
one for the
decision,
team,
because
Elliot.
I have eaten more than I can count of these cookies.
Good recipe.
Jojo Rabbit also, is another movie that definitely gets into satire of power versus non-power. This kid not directly class related, but can very much fall into that as well. Since we have the Nazis in power, and then the Jewish girl hidden in the house. But it's who's played by, I think her name was Thomasin McKenzie, who was in Leave No Trace last year from the same director as Winter's Bone. I saw it Sif, and it's fantastic. She also has a small bit in one of my honorable mentions, Changeover.
Yeah, we're almost to honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But Jojo Rabbit is definitely funny, moving through a very dark subject with really solid grace. It is very funny, but it also knows when not to be funny. It knows when to let the really dramatic parts hit and the heavy bits land without immediately falling through with a joke, whether dumb or not. 'Cause the humor is really smart. There's a lot of layers going on. There's a lot of understanding in this, where you have a kid who's part of the Hitler Youth who has to then look at his beliefs when he finds out more information. Scarlett Johansson is the role of her career as his mom. Have anyone seen this out of the four of us?
I haven't seen it yet. Yeah.
Haven't seen it.
Who then has to also navigate that as she sees her son going in a place that's a nasty place to go, and how she, in the way that Elizabeth Banks didn't in Brightburn, of how you focus someone and see that your kid is not being your kid anymore, but how to get that child back when he's still a child. But in Nazi Germany, it's kind of hard to keep being a child. But there's a lot of like sweetness to it in this dark humor. Sam Rockwell fucking kills it, and Rebel Wilson is really funny. And I'm the first one time
that's
ever
right, she's in
heard me
there.
say
Yeah,
that.
I forget she's in there.
And Sam Rockwell and Theon Greyjoy, Alfie Allen, are both great as disgraced officers. And I don't want to spoil any particular jokes or moments, but I highly recommend you see it. And of course, Waititi as Hitler is really funny, and he's definitely he's more of a representation of what a kid thinks of Hitler at that point, rather than a real version, which is wonderful because it's the way he's performed is so over the top and like almost producer style. And my final note on there is like, one of my favorite things I read this year was an interview with Titi when he's talking about preparing for playing Hitler, and someone asked like how much research he did. 0, none. I'm not going to give him any more time than I need, and plus we all know he's a cunt.
I appreciate that.
And, and as a person of color who's half Jewish, he definitely loved playing Hitler for that because it'd piss him off.
That's true.
One thing that I will say is that anyone who's seen Hunt for the Wilder People knows that Taika Waititi can navigate comedy and heartfult drama very deftly.
I saw the movie 3 times in theaters. I loved it that much.
Yeah, so this is on my must see list for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Waititi's done nothing but perfection across the board. Maybe Eagle vs. Shark was a little bit iffy, but What We Do in the Shadows is one of my top 5 movies. And
the TV series, oh my god,
really up there. And then he directed the last episode of Mandalorian, so he's in for Thor. He's really on a roll, and it's great to see him really explode because he was. I heard that. Number
You were
2,
scraping.
I really like these.
I mean, that's okay. I do too. That's why I
Number 2.
What happened when they're in front of me?
Rocketman.
I still haven't seen that.
Really, really enjoyed it. Because I mean, full disclosure, I fucking love Elton John. I think Elton John's like greatest hits are one of my absolute favorite albums.
Okay.
Love Elton John. It was great to see that the soundtrack was incredible. Taron Egerton does an incredible job as him.
Hold Me Closer, Tony Danza.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it.
Yeah, it's a really it's everything Bohemian Rhapsody was.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes.
See, I was going to ask about the comparison
It
there.
leans into the fact where Elton John's like, no, I was a complete fucking dick.
Yeah.
I want you to show that, and I want you to, and it's like
It doesn't follow the formula. It doesn't go.
Well, and it kind of it puts the music numbers in a really interesting way too, because it kind of puts it into more of a. I mean, I hate to say more musical theater, but more magical, right?
Yeah, it's magical realism.
Yeah.
And they move them around not in order of them coming out. It's whatever fits the scene.
Right.
Other than like Bohemian Rhapsody, which
Was trying.
I hated Bohemian Rhapsody. Fuck that movie.
Yeah,
Rocket Man was the anti-version.
it was so much better in every way.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't have much to say about it other than that it was really fucking good. If you love Elton John or a good acid trip fucking musical, go see it.
Oh, I
Here's
thought
like-
you just meant a good acid trip, because I do love a good acid
And the
trip.
thing about Taron Egerton as Elton, he's phenomenal. But what's great about it is he's playing a bigger than life character, but also a person who's incredibly shy, incredibly broken, and he plays both. He plays a very big character in a very personal way.
Yes.
And much like Rami Malek, he's not playing that character in the same way. But then Jamie Bell as Bernie Taupin is unsung hero for the movie as well.
Cool.
Yeah. Soundtrack. Fucking incredible.
I'm actually singing.
So my number 2 has also already been said earlier, but I didn't speak much to it, and that is The Farewell. It's really lovely. It's Awkwafina is very subtle, which is not a word I ever thought I would use to describe Awkwafina. It's funny. It's full of heart, and it's a really interesting exploration into not just different generations, but different cultures. And I think as a child, like in the movie, her character was born in China but moved to the US when she was still a kid, and she spent some summers back with her grandmother. But she was very much a kid who was kind of trapped between two worlds. She was American and she was Chinese, and the idea of not burdening the person who is dying of their own ultimate demise. I think at one point, it's pretty early on, her mom even says something to her about not being able to like hide her grief from her grandmother at the situation. It's just really, really interesting. It gives a whole other perspective on looking at, I think, illness. Are we better off, are we better off knowing, or are we better off not? If there's nothing that can be done, if something is inevitable, if illness and your death is inevitable, is it better off to know, or is it better off not? Because those around you are now carrying the burden instead of you.
Yeah.
Which is a really interesting perspective and goes very much against, like, she has a conversation with the doctor at one point about it. And it's really interesting because here, anyone who's not the patient can't know about your prognosis. So I don't know. I find that a really fascinating thing culturally, that there's such a difference between how we should deal with illness. But it's a movie full of heart. It really is. And family, and I felt things, which you all know I hate doing. I had feelings, so fuck. But, yeah, if you've not seen it, I actually don't know if it's streaming anywhere yet. But
it's A24, should probably pop on Amazon.
Yeah, but it's really, really lovely. It's not a movie that's, like, full of big dramatic speeches or big dramatic moments. It's very simple.
I don't know if I said this in the first half, but I love the fact that most of the scenes are around dinner tables.
Yeah,
and
eating.
The director said that, one of the producers said, why don't you have more scenes outside, more stuff in the, in a park, or in this, it's like, well, when you're with your family, what do? You sit around the coffee table and you eat. you sit at the kitchen table and eat.
There's a point too where Nene is like making her eat. It's like physically feeding her like the dumplings, because she's like, you love these, eat them, eat them, eat them, and it's such a grandmother thing to do. It's just such a lovely film, and is heart. There's just love and there's heart, and I had feelings, so also fuck it.
Tony, what's your number?
Tony,
Speaking of feelings,
feelings, I hate them.
The number 2 movie that I have on my list stirred a lot of those up. This is pretty last minute. I saw it day before yesterday, and I was absolutely. And Bob talked about not wanting to see this movie because he thought it would be emotionally devastating, and it kind of is, but it's also, I think, absolutely excellent. It is Noah Baumbach's Marriage Story. Have you seen it?
No, I lived it. I don't want to.
I see. This is a thing. Full disclosure, I did as well.
I only watched. I think mine is too fresh still, but
yeah,
I watched the scene where Adam Driver sings "Being Alive," which I will say. Woo! But after just watching that, I was like, I'm not ready to watch the rest of this movie.
It is.
We'll watch it eventually.
Yeah, I will.
I'm not actually ready for it yet.
I will tell you that it is definitely an emotional ringer. There are a couple of things that I want to get out of the way right now, because these are things that probably people would carp about in the first place about the movie. One is, it is basically about a couple of rich white people.
Oh yeah.
So it is coming.
Movie about that?
Pretty,
Yeah, I know.
Pretty which right.
It is. It's very Noah
Which
Baumbach.
right people? Which right
Absolutely.
Which right people?
Which white people?
Rich white people.
Which
Can't
right
say that.
people? No, I keep saying which.
We're a bottle and a half in each. So
Which right
There's a lot
people?
of them.
Rich right people.
Which right people?
So there's that, and also there are some points where it feels like it telegraphs its emotional beats a little bit without quite as much subtlety as you would like. That said, the vast majority of it absolutely, positively works brilliantly. It has two striking performances at the center. Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver are both amazing in this film. Talking about films that have very cathartic, big dramatic moments, there is a moment where Driver's character has a complete and total breakdown that is like literally you can viscerally feel every ounce of emotion that's going through him. The movie does a very good job of laying out what has caused the relationship to disintegrate and what wrongs and missteps each person has done. And by the end, you understand where these two people have come from. You understand why the marriage is disintegrated. And it's just... the emotional beats were so powerful and so strong for me. I literally, again, my heart is not quite as cold and dead as yours. I teared up more than once at this movie. It was incredibly cathartic emotionally. Again, full disclosure, I've been through a variation of this myself. I'm on much better terms with my ex than the people in this film, for the most part.
Or the people at this table.
There you go. But there are still there's so much emotional truth in this movie. There's a lot of universality in the emotional truth of this movie. It's beautifully acted. It's got some great supporting performances. Laura Dern, again, another MVP. She's
Laura
great in
Dern.
it. And of all people, Julie Haggerty from Airplane plays. She plays Scarlett Johansson's mother in the movie, and she's fucking excellent. Ray Liotta has a great memorable scene in it. It's just like it's everything that you want an A-list casted drama to be. It hits just the right emotional beats, and yet it still feels cinematic. It's beautifully shot. It is a beautifully shot film. A lot of wonderful emotional semaphore for the kind of separation that's involved with these characters. I was really, really, and it may be just the state of mind I was in, but wow. It hit me with the feels. And without giving anything away, the ending feels right. The ending feels as like way more honest than you expect the ending to be in a movie like this. I can't recommend it highly enough. I just was absolutely captivated by it. I think it's a terrific, terrific drama. And it pulls the emotional strings masterfully. I loved it. I just thought it was a terrific, terrific movie.
And my number 2 we have talked a lot about was Parasite.
Yay!
Big surprise. Something we've talked. We've pretty much talked to death. So there's nothing really to add besides go see this movie because it's brilliant. I came in knowing absolutely nothing. Like
That's the way, and that's the way to see it.
Actually, I will say, I deliberately didn't even watch the trailer.
Yeah,
and
I didn't see the trailer.
Yeah, me neither.
Like, I love trailers. Bob knows this. I love trailers. Kim loves... When I'm at the gym sometimes, jogging, because, thank you, Brittany loves a marathon. No, Brittany runs a marathon.
She probably loves a marathon.
Right, we'll see. But I'll watch movie trailers because I like trailers that much, and they distract me for 3-minute increments while I'm trying to jog, because fuck you jogging, but I'm doing it because I want to run a marathon. But I didn't watch one for Parasite because I wanted to know as little as possible. Anyway.
Yeah, and watching it unfold and everything is so well written, so well mixed. The sound design. That's one thing I will say is like I was just blown away by the sound design in that movie because it was just perfect, and that and Doctor Sleep are two great sound
Yeah.
designs.
Oh,
For movies
Dr. Sleep
for movies
really
that you
did.
wouldn't expect to. Yeah, like, of course you expect it for big action things like Ad Astra or Ford vs Ferrari. But for something like this, it was really surprised at these two like mid-range, drama, almost horror, in the case of Parasite, which kind of bounces in a couple times. Not enough to call it a horror film, but enough to talk about in horror.
I think it's genre enough to have it be part of our circle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of put it there with a little like asterisk on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's not fully, don't expect
No,
knowing
no,
a
no, no,
horror
no,
film,
it's-
but there's horror.
There's
enough
horror.
in
I mean,
there to
and
break
the
out.
horror of being human
Yeah.
a little bit.
But I'm gonna leave farewell. Not farewell. I'm gonna leave Parasite at that. Cody, what's your?
well,
we're at number one
I say we're
next.
we're in our honorable mentions first.
we can mention a couple titles to start out to get too much conversation
No.
or context.
Mostly just
To kind of throwing stuff out there. Maybe
I was thinking, honestly, I've got two.
Alright.
Endgame, obviously. Countdown. Thought it was
Countdown,
fun.
yeah.
Countdown was a lot of
It
fun.
was- yeah.
I really enjoyed that.
Absolutely.
It was a good
Yeah.
time.
I
I
thought
think
it
people
was,
were ready to shit on. That's why I got that crap.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I even the theater I saw it in, people really had a good time.
I just thought it was fun, and honestly, horror doesn't not all horror has to be art horror. It can just be a good time.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like why I love Happy Death Day.
Yeah,
It's good.
Can you
Good time.
believe we saw The Prodigy this year?
yeah. That was
Was that this year?
February.
Oh my god. Okay, that's
Same
not.
month as Happy Death Day to you.
That's not on my honorable mentions. Just gonna put that out there
It's
now.
just a movie.
I have a couple honorable
go
mentions.
for it.
I've said mine. So
Horror
Wake me up for my
Noir.
number one.
Yeah.
The documentary. It's running on Shudder. It's fucking good. It's real
That's
good.
my number 20 on my list total. Yeah.
I love a good horror documentary, and this is
Yes.
a good horror documentary. So it's on Shudder. Watch it. Captain Marvel, also
Yeah.
Avengers Endgame, the Marvel, and I give a shout out to Spider-Man because I love me as Spider-Man. But yeah, Captain Marvel, yay, lady superheroes. Hagazusa,
Oh yes.
Ah.
I forgot about that for this year.
holy
'Cause I saw it
acid
last
trip
year, so I need to-
yeah, honestly,
Okay, that's another pull quote. Another pull quote. Holy acid trip fuck.
And one of the
City
reasons
of
why
Heat.
I struggled with whether or not to put it even on my list was when it came out.
Yeah, I
but
saw it SIFF last year, but then
right, but it got a
shot
wide
this year. Yeah.
it got a wide release this year. The visuals, my fucking god, the visuals are stunning. What the fuck is going on with that movie? I'm still not entirely sure. I felt like I was on acid, and I've never been on acid, and now I kind of want to be. But it's really interesting. It is a slow burn. It's weird. It's got some freaky parts. It's got some trigger warnings, but it is a really interesting film. Sweetheart.
Oh, that just started streaming recently.
It's on Netflix. It's another. It's not a high budget one, but it's a good movie.
The reviews
It's
are really good.
really good movie, and I watched it recently and was genuinely surprised and impressed. And again, it's another one where a lot of it's carried on the performance of the lead woman. She is just fantastic, and the first chunk of the movie, it's just her. It is just her doing her thing, and she is so good. And on that note, let's also talk about Nightingale. That was one, was on my list, was off my list, was on my list, was off my list. It is hard to watch in I think, again, for the ladies, there is some sexual violence. It is, that being said, it is not glamorized. It is filmed in a way in which you, this is a weird thing to say, how you would want that kind of thing to be filmed. I think it's done the best way it can be. It's also historically accurate.
Sadly.
But it is a movie that I couldn't stop. I started and I was captivated by. And the ending is it doesn't feel sad the way you kind of think it should. It's weirdly hopeful. I also want to give a shout out to Fleabag because I've just binged it and it's awesome. Also, the Peloton ad, because
Back Best horror film of the year.
It was the best horror film of the year, but also I'd never actually heard of these bikes until
Neither
these
had
commercials. And now I'm kind of obsessed with the idea of them. So thank you for that. All right. That's
Okay.
a shit ton of
Honorable
shout
mentions.
outs. Yeah.
Again, continuing with the theme of directors who made really great horror movies as a first shot, I, and my honorable mentions, would also heartily agree with The Nightingale, which is directed by Jennifer Kent, who directed The Babadook, which is, to this day, one of my very favorite horror movies of the decade. And I'll just echo what Kim said. It is a unremittingly harsh watch. It is absolutely devastatingly brutal. It is an absolute primal rage scream against the patriarchy. And on that standpoint, it works so effectively. I'm blanking on the actress's name, the lead in this film. She is brilliant.
Oh, she is stunning.
excellent.
She is stunning.
The movie is beautifully rendered in terms of period detail. It gives an insight into a part of the world and a part of that country's history, Tasmania, that most of us are not aware of. It is outstandingly acted. It is wonderfully shot. It is wrenchingly emotional. The reason it didn't make my top 10 is, in addition to the fact that it is very brutal and hard to watch, for me at least, the ending kind of fell off the rails a little. I felt like it kind of lost its way. Similarly, speaking of honorable mentions, this is like, but for a few better movies that I saw, this would have been the year of sophomore efforts by people who made great horror movies on their first try. And the other one that I wanted to mention was Under the Silver Lake, which was directed by David Robert Mitchell, who directed It Follows. It is a shaggy dog neo-noir starring Andrew Garfield, who is terrific, as kind of a slacker stoner who is in pursuit of the whereabouts and identity and status in terms of living or dead of a woman that he meets in his apartment complex. It is quirky as fuck. It goes down tangents that make absolutely no fucking sense. But I was fascinated throughout. It feels very much spiritually like a lot of the great kind of neo-noirs of the 70s. I thought of Robert Altman's The Long Goodbye on acid.
Yep, that's...
So I really like
I thought of that too.
Also, Ready or Not, which we mentioned already at this table, which I thought was terrific. And last but not least, I did want to mention the only reason this did not make my top 10 is because I don't think it's gotten distribution yet, but at SIFF, I saw Lynch, a documentary, which is a documentary about Marshawn Lynch of the Seahawks, who, and it is literally all told through TV clips and interview clips with Lynch and involving Lynch. And it tells in its own very elegant and seemingly effortless way, it follows the arc of this man from promising athlete to world superstar to almost like a court jester pointing out the inherent idiocy of racism and his function as a provocateur, forcing people to look at their racism. And I really hope it gets real distribution. It's Lynch, a documentary. I just was absolutely captivated by it. Had it had a legit distribution in 2019, it probably would have even beat out Kifaru on my list. I just thought it was terrific. Those are my honorable mentions.
All right, so I'm going to mention Terrified, just technically maybe from a year or two ago. It's now on Shudder. It's probably one of the scariest things I've seen in ever. In happier things, Yesterday and Heavy Trip are both very sweet and funny music comedies. Yesterday, bigger hit than Heavy Trip was, but so Heavy Trip is on Amazon if you want to check that out. Two fantastic films of horror and madness and isolation is The Wind, Demons on the Prairie, and We've Always Lived in the Castle.
Oh,
I forgot that was this year. I loved We've Always Lived in the
It's been done
Castle.
for like 2 years. It finally came out.
I think
that should have been on my honorable mentions.
Yeah, no, that's
well,
not
it's
the one
online,
that
so it's close enough.
in my mind came out last year. No, that was this year. That was really, really nicely done. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I second that.
And then we'll say Monster Party is a blast.
I
It goes
still
well
need to
with
watch that.
Ready or Not. Togo is from Disney Plus, and the best thing they've
Yeah,
done
it just
outside
came
of
out.
Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And I don't like dogs, and that's a fantastic film.
I don't like that should be their poll quote. I don't like dogs, but it's
And
a fantastic
speaking of Disney
film.
Plus, The Mandalorian is probably my number one favorite thing of this year. That's
Oh,
not
Jesus.
Yeah,
I've
you
only
were-
seen the first 4 episodes, and I'm like,
You were like one of 2 people yesterday when I was making my plea about what I should watch that suggested The Mandalorian.
Damn right.
it's
And
so good.
if I include a TV, it'd be my number one straight up. Also, great TV is Chernobyl and What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh my god,
It's
that
better
show is
than the
brilliant.
movie, and the movie is one of my
It
top,
is.
top movies.
It's better. It is so fucking funny.
And Chernobyl was just gorgeous and fucked up and the scariest thing probably this year. So that's all my honorable mentions. Just quickly, and Tigers Aren't Afraid. You should see that. So number ones, we finally reached the end, like 6 hours later.
Oh god.
So,
What's your number
all
one?
right, what's your
buddy?
number one, Cody?
All right, Knife Plus Heart.
Knife Plus Sword. Nice.
Right on.
I really thought it was a great way of bringing the giallo genre into the 21st century. Tony, honestly, pretty much you summed up my thoughts in a much more succinct and elegant way, but I thought it was very well shot. The soundtrack's incredible. The killer design is great. It's a good fucked up giallo, and especially when they get into the backstory of the killer and why he's doing it. It's great. I love the fact that they have that LGBTQ.
And it doesn't feel forced.
No, it doesn't.
It's
It-
just
No, it feels very
organically
organic.
part of the
yeah,
movie.
it doesn't feel like, hey, we did a good thing for gay people. It's like, no, this feels a genuine good film. Absolutely my favorite movie of the year, by far.
Damn.
I
Great pick.
I really consider Rocket Man just because I really did enjoy the soundtrack, but when I think of how much I enjoyed something and how much it really brought back a genre that's fallen the fuck off since the 1970s. Knife Plus Sword.
Cool.
Yeah,
I
what's
feel
your
like
number one?
I feel like my number one's not going to be a surprise to a lot of people who have had a conversation with me. Midsummer.
Yeah. I was looking through this list. I'm like, she hasn't mentioned Midsummer.
No, because so this was my trajectory for Midsummer. I have a tradition to see a movie on July 4th. And I went and saw Midsummer because it had just come out. And then that Sunday, I
we saw it
believe, is
Sunday.
when we went and saw it at Arc Lodge.
Yeah.
And then I went and saw the director's cut. So I saw this movie in theaters 3 times. I was another one who was really reluctant going in. Hereditary, I thought was gorgeously acted and beautiful to look at, and I still don't know if I liked it. It was
I could never watch it again, honestly.
it was a really rough movie to watch.
Yeah.
And I had concerns going into Midsummer initially that I was going to feel similarly. And without spoiling the ending, it's cathartic. I found it to be full of joy. I leave the theater every time with a smile on my face. I feel lighter. The scene with all of the women crying with her,
That has some serious
yeah.
symbolic resonance. That is
Absolutely.
like, yeah.
I think I've said this in our City of Geek chat. I in general am fairly hard on male directors and their portrayal of women. There are very few male directors who I feel like understand women the way women understand women. And he is one of the few who I think has portrayed women accurately and in a way that feels real and feels organic and feels right. The sensitivity and this is really, it's a horror film, but it's a movie about the end of a relationship and the end of a bad relationship and a relationship where there's gaslighting and it's not abusive, but it's not a good relationship. It's not healthy.
Yes, and that's one of the things that really works about that movie.
Yes. It's a lot easier, I think, when something is black and white. Her boyfriend he's a dick, but he's not evil.
Yeah.
He's just an asshole. Like many of us have had asshole boyfriends before. I had an asshole ex-husband. And I think, again, that's maybe why it resonated so much to me, having been in a relationship where I'm like, oh shit, this speaks to me. It really, more than any movie I saw this year, felt like my truth. And I think is not only going to be, again, it's my number one for the year, but this is going to be one of my number one movies ever. So
It's terrific. I can't wait to see it again myself.
Yeah.
I want to see the director's cut.
I have it on Blu-ray.
I have the regular Blu-ray. I don't have the director's cut, which is only on Apple.
And I
waiting
will.
for the special feature
I'm
edition.
yeah.
But I still bought it.
I'll give a shout out to the director's cut. I am very glad I saw it. Do any of these scenes make it a different movie? No. Do they add to things? Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great to know.
Tony, what is your number one movie of 2019 as of so far? So obviously we'll see more stuff.
Yeah, again, the gauge that we're generally using when we're talking about films that we've loved for the year is how much you enjoyed them.
Mm-hmm.
This movie that is my number one, I enjoyed more purely, more wholeheartedly than anything that I saw for the year. I thought it was funny. I thought it was inspiring. I thought it was richly resonant of its time, and I thought it captured the joy of creation, of making art better than anything I saw all year, and that was Dolomite Is My Name. I loved this movie. First of all, it captures the period of the 70s brilliantly. Second of all, it's got Eddie Murphy at his unaffected best in the central starring role. And it does a wonderful job of laying out how Rudy Ray Moore, this doughy, mid-30s, unspectacular guy, created a persona built partially from slave-era folktales that he got from homeless guys. And there's a wonderful montage where you see him literally creating the Dolomite persona because he's talking to these older homeless guys who basically knew these stories back and forth because their parents or grandparents were slaves. And so it's this wonderful celebration of black culture. It also captures the sheer joy of creating better than any movie that I saw this year easily, and I could probably go back a couple of years, because it portrays the entire creation of the first Dolomite movie from the ground up, and how everyone who was doing the movie didn't know what the fuck they were doing, and yet against all odds they made it happen anyway. It is beautifully acted from stem to stern. Murphy is great. Wesley Snipes needs an Oscar nod for this movie. He plays D'Urville Martin, the director of the film. He's like this charismatic, wonderfully colorful, drunken character. It's such a great turn from Wesley Snipes. It's just so good to see him back on the screen doing something good. The movie's directed by Craig Brewer, who did Hustle and Flow, and it's got this great, wonderful rhythm. There's something almost punk rock and hip hop to the way that Rudy Ray Moore created the Dolomite character, and the movie captures that beautifully in just a couple minutes' time. And most importantly, most crucially, it telegraphs the sheer joy of filmmaking and of creating from the ground up. And I think one of the key factors to this is, in addition to being kind of a triumph for Craig Brewer, I think it's also a triumph for the two screenwriters, whose names I am blanking on, but they were the screenwriters who wrote Ed Wood.
Yeah.
And so this movie,
that's all they've done. Is
and this, Ed Wood, The People versus Larry Flint, Larry Karaszewski is one of them. I forget the other gentleman's name. This is another, this is like a recurring theme in the films that they're writing. A lot of the time it's just these fact-based stories. And I mean, Ed Wood is like one of the other great movies about the sheer joy of creating art with a bunch of other people. The whole let's put on a show thing. This movie, I think, does it even better. And it's got so many great, colorful supporting performances. Cody Smith McPhee is terrific in it. He's playing Nicholas von Sternberg, who's like the son or grandson of oh God, I'm forgetting Sternberg, the director from the 20s of all things. He's great in it. They're just. And it's also just an exhilarating glimpse at the 70s. It's just the period details are right. The spirit is right. The strange sense of innocence is right. And the way that this guy united a black audience and gave them something to rally around is just really super exhilarating, inspiring. I mean, this movie just, I left this movie feeling inspired and on top of the world. I just think it's terrific. It's one of the best movies about movie making that I've seen in the last few years.
Nice.
All right, we come down to our final
All right,
number
Bob,
one.
bring
at the
it
end.
home.
hear it from Fred.
No, I'm kidding. Wait for Cody to murder
I actually was surprised that wasn't on Cody's worst of.
Honestly, after Star Wars,
No, Three Men was not my number one. My number one actually was mentioned earlier. It was Tony mentioned The Lighthouse from Robert Eggers. A wonderful exercise in isolation, like the wind, but of insanity and this non-stop onslaught of everything and how it wears you down, both of how you're dealing with someone else is there, the foghorn going all the time, all the birds.
Oh,
Birds.
and the sound editing.
The
God, the
sound,
sound
oh,
on
God.
that movie is amazing.
And I know some people didn't like the fact that it was shot in Century Square.
Yeah, 16 by 9 or whatever.
Yeah,
Oh, but
it
see,
wasn't
that
quite-
was something I thought was cool.
I thought it was fantastic choice because it really got the
Oh, it
it
takes you
captured
back.
the
It's
feel of the movie.
claustrophobia.
Yeah.
It's extreme claustrophobia. It's beautifully shot for black and white. It was forced in black and white, so it made that extra level on there. I don't think it would have worked nearly as well in color.
Oh,
the
God, no.
dynamic between Defoe and Patterson
nice.
was beautiful. The weird imagery, and you're not sure exactly what's happening and why, and how fucked up it gets. It's absolutely a horror film. Anyone who says it isn't paying attention.
Anyone who says it isn't has a very narrow view, mostly
Yeah.
like Saw and Friday the 13th of what
Yeah,
horror
exactly.
is.
And it's Willem Dafoe knocking out the park. He says his speech from later, and it's like in the trailer of like, "How long have we been out on this rock?
Yeah.
2 weeks, a day,
It's
lifetime."
so effective. It
And the
is
way
so
it
effective.
turns and like the way it twists and turns each other back and forth, and just how it's just beautiful.
And it's just two dudes in a
got
row,
it,
basically. It's two dudes in a lighthouse. It's just insane how well it works.
And yeah, it got me in all the right ways, and I absolutely loved it. One of the best times I watched in theaters, the person behind me was like, had no idea what the fuck is going on. And they were voicing it, not in an annoying way, more of like, what? Huh? What the shit?
I will say this. I have never in my life yelled something out in a movie. I did during Cats. At one point, you can ask, I think Lauren and I talked about it in the video. I didn't think I was this loud, but I loudly yelled, "What the fuck?"
That was like a Eternity when I went, oh, fuck off.
Yeah.
I was like, yep, sorry, I could not help it. It just came out. But yeah, The Lighthouse was a
I really was,
brutal, wonderfully filmed movie. Yeah, that I cannot wait to watch again and again. It comes out in DVD on the 7th, and hopefully I can afford to buy it. No, I'm kidding. No, but it's but yeah, it's a great follow up to The Witch. If you didn't like The Witch, I think some people didn't watch it because they didn't like The Witch.
This
But
is
it's,
even
it's a different movie.
Black
instead of a
fucking
movie.
Phillip.
Yeah.
Well, then
They're
the
both
other
great movies.
This is the other thing I think is you have to admire the fact that Eggers somehow got a movie this fucking weird, this flagrantly strange and left of center into fucking multiplexes, and people actually watched it.
Yeah. With using again old timey dialogue like he did in The Witch, but now
Yeah.
it's a little newer. But actually, like there's a weird like screenwriting type credit for like the journals that he took from.
Well, I will say I appreciate that part of his approach to filmmaking is it's not just historical accuracy, it's
he was
like-
put them out on the rock.
well no but I mean like he fucking commits to the language down to every last little phrase.
And
yeah, no, but
The phrasing and farting.
he really looks at his references to get the dialogue correct are remarkable. Not
it's jargon heavy dialogue, but you
Yeah.
don't feel taken out when you're watching it.
well, again, I
It
think it's
feels
what
right.
adds to
totally.
creating his.
That's what sucks you in.
Yeah.
He brings you a different world.
I have no idea what salty shit they just said, but they seem to know what it is. Okay.
Well, I mean, but the same way in The Witch that
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes it was so dense. I saw it at the Egyptian, which was lovely, but there was times I was like, "What the fuck did they just say?" And so the second time I watched it with the captions on, just
The
to make
Witch,
sure. Yeah. No, but to make sure I didn't.
Understandable, yeah.
Particularly, anytime you have accents involved, even British accents, which I usually do pretty good with, but sometimes there's something that just doesn't hit the ear right.
Yeah.
I really appreciate his authenticity to dialogue because there's directors who are really authentic when it comes to every other detail around them, but they don't look at dialogue the way he does.
Yeah.
And that's remarkable.
Yeah.
But that kind of wraps us up. We
God,
went
12 hours later.
Yeah, it's at 2:00 in the morning as we're doing this. It's
God.
several
Holy
hours.
shit.
It's fair to say that
156.
that our movie of the year is Midsommar. It's in all 4 of our places. It ranks pretty high.
Is that the only one that's in all 4?
I think so.
Wow.
And then I did a.
Oh, wait.
I did
Oh,
a little
Parasite.
Bit, Parasite was not on his.
No.
Oh,
Cody didn't have it.
yeah, that's right.
That ended up. So that was our number 2 so I did a ranking system in which, if it was a 10, you get 1 point. If it was a 1, you get 10 points. And then for all the movies talked about tonight, so it makes
Oh my god.
Midsommar has got 25 points, making
Okay.
a winner, followed by Parasite, and then because Cody and I both counted so high was The Lighthouse, even though they do so.
Tony.
So it's a little bit uneven. And then Knives plus Heart was our number 4 release, and then The Farewell after that. So that was our top 5 of the year. If you do from that schedule.
I'm just glad at the end of this podcast that they revealed that we're all still alive.
And if you're continuing to hear that sound in the background, that
It is Carolyn
Yeah.
sleeping.
Carolyn's snoring.
We all survived. Hopefully you did too. If you listened to us, it's probably just Eric and Jen at this point.
Yeah, probably.
But subscribe to everyone else's podcast. Subscribe to ours. Share us, like us.
Pretty please.
Go to citygeek.com. Tell us what your favorites were of this year, and then of course read my little write up of everything I watched this year because I spent too much time working on it. I need somebody to read it. So we'll see you guys next time. We'll see when we get the time to get everything together again. If we get the chance, it probably be the spring preview, but or winter preview, but we'll just see what we feel like. This is Bob.
Odie.
Oh my god, are we 12?
Yes.
This is Kim.
Last but certainly not least is Tony.
And
And-
Tilly in the background.
And Carolyn in the background as well.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Remember to stay geeky and subscribe.
Bye.
Bye.